Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 56, the triumphant return. I am your excited host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my friends crushed below the weight of responsibility, Vili.
Weight is real weighty.
Jody.
It's not more fucking naive chapters. Yay!
It sure isn't. We'll get into it, but I mean, this was also not exactly the most riveting stretch of chapters with which to restart our recording process.
What are you talking about? It is fantastic chapters.
I
Have
love
you ever
them
look
all.
at them? This is just like
I stand
talk,
corrected.
talk,
I love your
talk,
energy.
talk,
I'm going to absorb it now. Okay. Welcome back.
Hey.
So, let's check in. Because last time we recorded an episode, we all said that we were going to go do certain things.
We did?
Did we?
We all said we were going to read things.
No, that didn't happen.
Oh, yes.
You know I'm unreliable. Do not believe anything I say.
As am I. I bought that The Lost Metal, that latest Mistborn novel
yeah.
of Brandon Sanderson's. I took it camping with my kids, thinking foolishly that I'll do a lot of reading while camping with small children. What a fool I was.
The only thing
I'm about
that
40% through it.
that can happen
40%.
to books on camping is you damage your book. You never read it.
Oh, it was a Kindle, so
Ah.
it got put away. I took it out once. Actually, I lie. I read a couple times late at night after everyone had gone to bed. And that's the beauty of the Kindle, right? You can read next to a fire because you don't need another light.
Yeah.
So I could sit and read in the dark, and that was quite pleasant. But I mean, nowhere near enough time to read a whole book, which sucks because I'm pretty into it. It's pretty good.
The Lost Metal, you say?
Yes. I will say this, though, Joe. I mean, you were saying last time that you weren't super into those new era Mistborn books. I'm starting to feel the same. Not that I don't like them, but I certainly found myself craving going back to the Wheel of Time, something a bit weightier. It all feels a little bit light and quippy, and everyone is a smart aleck, and like it just, a lot happens really quickly, which you would think is a terrible criticism to level at a book, right? Like, stuff's always happening. How dare you? And for the most part, it is cool stuff. But sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed. You don't get to sit and like stew on anything, you know. Like you don't get to like really immerse yourself in any one scene. It's just going the whole time, which has its place, but it's not my number one favorite style. But I'll keep going. I'm into it. I mean, I've read this much of the series, so I might as well finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Sanderson has some weighty stuff. If you go to Stormlight, yeah,
He does.
You can stew on a lot there.
Yes, and I'm actually looking forward to a reread of those first couple of books again, because I'd like to read it a second time to sort of like gather a bit more intel and like just let more of it actually sink in.
Is there not a podcast very similar to this one that recaps that one, those books, so that I can not
there
have
must
to
be.
read them again?
I bet you some of our like fellow Wheel of Time podcasters also do a general fantasy or a Brandon Sanderson or a Stormlight podcast. I'm going to go poke around. Maybe I've said I'd do that before, but I certainly have not.
If our listeners know, I mean, maybe they listen to us and also those, let us know. Send us a DM or a whatever
Please,
the kids are doing.
please
these
do.
days.
Did you guys do anything interesting over the break?
Standard December, Christmas, New Year's, kids' birthdays, empty wallet. Same.
Billy, that is
Were you having my break?
word for word exactly what I did. In that order. Kid's birthday was there. My youngest turned 7. I went up to Madrid for New Year's. Got sick.
Fancy.
It was great.
You did it the traditional way then.
Yes.
Did you see Midnight on New Year's Eve?
Oh, yes, I did. But I'm that
well
guy, like,
done.
hey, cheers, ching ching, everybody hugs and kisses, happy New Year, and then I'm already like, all right, when can we go? I'm done now. Everybody sits around, I'm standing, pacing, going like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
You've turned into your dad.
Yeah. Well, my dad used to go to bed at like 8 o'clock on New Year's Eve. Like,
It's coming.
I'm done.
It's coming. Okay, well, let's forge ahead. But before we do, let's really stretch the limits of our age-addled brains and try to remember what we were on about in 2022 in everyone's favorite segment, callbacks. Okay, a big one to start off with. I messed up the description of a dream spike. I knew I got it wrong even during the edit, and a couple of listeners actually wrote in to confirm as much, so thanks, gang. A dream spike does not prevent channeling in the real world. It prevents specifically traveling. So you can still channel when the dream spike is in that area, but what it stops people from doing is creating gateways and traveling around and stuff. So it is still immensely powerful, and it is used in a very interesting way, which I won't delve into in the last book. And it becomes quite a serious plot point and quite a hardcore mission for Perrin at the end, because it's dealing with the world of dreams, and Slayer is in possession of the dream spike at some stage. A lot of Perrin's storyline, involves their dream spike.
Is there only one dream spike?
I think there's only one that we know of, but they might have mentioned. It's like a thing from the Age of Legends. I think it came through in one of the stasis boxes or something. Setting myself up for more callbacks later. But I think there's only one that really plays a role in the story. Then we asked ourselves, why did Nicola and Irina, for that matter, agree to keep Nynaeve and Elaine's secret about pretending to be Aes Sedai? Remember, like, Nicola made an appearance, and she was sort of like, she's being shitty to Nynaeve and like not telling her in time that the Aes Sedai are waiting for her, like, oh, well, yeah, I seem to recall their words were blah, 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 just being really lame. And we were going like, why is she keeping their secret at all? And the short answer is that neither Nicola or Irina did actually know that Nynaeve and Elaine ever claimed to be Aes Sedai, because they never did it in front of those women on the boat. They were already on their way to Salidar. They may have implied it, but they've never said it. They never said, we are Aes Sedai. And later, apparently, they overhear a conversation between Tom and Julian about the girls acting as Aes Sedai. And that's when Nicola tries to blackmail them with that info. And she even tries to blackmail Egwene with the same thing. And the way Egwene just basically confronts her and intimidates her. So she stops. Yeah. Like, basically just tells her, do you know how serious this is? What you would, because I think Egwene is already Amerlin seated.
She's Amerlin seated at that time, and she quite stressfully had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Oh, Billy, yeah, you're ahead, eh?
Yeah, you finished Lord of Chaos, right?
Yeah, I'm finished. I'm in whatever the next one is, Crowns of Twilight or something.
The Crown of Twilight. I dig it.
Now, remember the woman that was standing on the second floor that was watching Nynaeve as Theodrin collected her from beneath the window when Nynaeve was eavesdropping? Mm-hmm. We had lots of theories about who it is, and you guys thought it was Halima, but Halima only shows up in chapter 30. So Halima's not there yet, so it wasn't her. We also sort of stumbled over, like, which one is Halima again? Arangar or Osangar? Halima is Arangar. And I was thinking to myself, it would have been so much easier if Agenor was Arangar, because the two letters would, I would remember. But Agenor is Osangar and Belthamel is Arangar.
Okay.
So the way I'm going to try and remember now which one is Osangar and which one is Arangar is it's the letters do not match. So Agenor is not Arangar. Therefore, I'm going to have to do that little mental formula every time.
Sorry, you did all of that now, but I still don't know who Halima is.
I just thought of a mnemonic for that. It's funny that he was reincarnated as a woman. So you can go, ha! And that would be Halima and Arangar, H-A. Remember it like that.
Yes. For me, it was always easy to remember Belthamel and Halima, because Belthamel was the pervert and the womanizer, and Halima is the sexy woman. And remember in the chapter where they come back in these bodies and they meet Shaidar Haran, he's sort of like, he's outraged. He's looking in a mirror and he's freaking out, and Agenor sort of observing him. But yeah, specifically Arangar and Osangar, because they sound so similar and they arrive at the same time. It's like, fuck, man. Come on, RJ. Give me some assonance to deal with, and then I can remember easier. Anyway.
Tangent's done.
tangent done. Do you remember I said that Nynaeve gave two conflicting accounts of Rand's nature to Tana Fear and to the other two Aes Sedai that interrogated her? They were asking her, what is Nynaeve, right? Sorry. They were both asking Nynaeve at different times what Rand is like. Tell us more about Rand.
Yes.
So Nynaeve says to Tana Fear, the emissary from the White Tower, who's a red Ogier sister, she says to her, mainly all I remember is a boy who never listened to reason. He had to be pushed into what he should, or dragged into it. But to Janya and Delana earlier, she says, when he was a boy, he would accept his punishment without any argument if he thought he deserved it. But if he didn't think so, he fought every step of the way. And then she also says, you can lead him or convince him, but he won't be pushed. He digs in his heels if he thinks you're... And then she gets cut off. So it is contradictory. So she's giving Tana the bad advice.
Good. Smart girl.
Go Nynaeve. Yeah. I couldn't for the life of me find out anything conclusive about what would happen if Egwene had to die in Gawain's dream. Remember when she goes into his dream and she sort of lets herself over to it? We were saying, well, it's not Tel'aran'rhiod, so those rules don't necessarily apply in an actual person's dream because it's not the same thing. And I mean, we could probably go back and find in the text somewhere when someone starts explaining about those things, certainly not in this book, but earlier in the books when the concepts of Tel'aran'rhiod and people's dreams are introduced, it might be mentioned there. But I'm not going to troll back through every single mention of Tel'aran'rhiod in the series to try and find it. And I couldn't find anyone who conveniently put it in a place for me to Google it either. So if any of our listeners know, please let me know, like, what's going to happen if Egwene, who has possessed her own body in someone else's dream, but didn't go there in the flesh, didn't go there from Tel'aran'rhiod, what happens then? We will never know.
Maybe she just wakes up in sexy land dreams for the rest of her life.
I mean, sweet.
Could be worse places to be trapped.
Then we've had quite a few listener contributions. So Mr. Dependable, aka Ian Yellen, wrote in with a couple of thoughts. He says that Moghedien is definitely getting satisfaction from teaching Nynaeve and Elaine bad weaves that cause headaches, because she even uses it as an excuse to Moradin later when he asks her why she's helped the Aes Sedai. But he doesn't buy it, so suck it, Moggy. He still puts her in a mind trap. Nicola's foretelling about the three women with Rand on a boat is a reference to King Arthur's mortally wounded body on a boat to Avalon, which is also accompanied by, I think, more than three women, but it's also on a boat. Lots of Arthurian references in Wheel of Time, obviously. Egwene doesn't recognize Swan and Leanne in Tel'aran'rhiod because of context. She's not expecting to see them there. Remember, I was sort of put out by, like, you can recognize someone even if you can't see their face really clearly, especially if you know they travel in pairs and blah, blah, blah. But apparently later she's even in Swan's company and told her name, and she thinks it must be a younger Aes Sedai that shares the same name. Even when she hears the name, she doesn't think, oh, it's Swan Sanche. Wild. So, I mean, the difference in facial, composition or whatever you want to call it must be significant. Ian also confirmed Swan and Leanne are using Tel'aran'rhiod for running the eyes and ears networks that they each manage individually. And that's obviously why they're also allowed to use Tel'aran'rhiod Terangriel, which is, another question I think we asked sort of off the cuff before, like, why are these non-channelers allowed? And I think we even said probably for the eyes and ears network. But Ian put two and two together and said, so maybe the blue paint in the stables could be a message to Leanne from her sources. So, maybe that's why she's standing there nodding, sort of like, okay. We were wondering, like, why would Leanne be reacting that way to the blue stables now? But if it is specifically a signal to her about something, that would make sense.
Seems an expensive signal to paint someone's stable
elaborate
blue.
But I mean, but the way that Tel'aran'rhiod works is that something has to be quite permanent for it to actually manifest there. You can't just put something somewhere because if it moves around a lot, so like it has to be something significant. You'd have to build something, or in this case, paint. I mean, that actually kind of makes sense. Then, friend of the show, Jacob, wrote in a bunch of times. He sent me, I think, 4 or 5 emails as he caught up with some of the later episodes, so strap in here. He was saying in episode 38, parents shoot Slayer in the world of dreams, and Slayer fades out when he steps out of the world of dreams, and the arrow falls to the ground. The only other time we see Slayer or Perrin move between the world of dreams and the real world is during the last battle before Perrin kills him, and they kind of flicker between worlds. And I think the difference, also this is Jacob saying, I think the difference is just a disconnect between Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, and the magic hadn't been completely fleshed out. I mean, that's something we would never have picked up on, because I certainly do not remember the specifics of how Slayer moves between the wolf dream and the real world in Memory of Light, but we'll get there. Jacob thinks that Perrin's vision of a naked Matt tied up is most likely a scene from Matt's tryst with Tylan. So let's see if a scene from that part of the story triggers a memory of this. So remember when Matt is in, is it in Ibudar? I think so. We'll see if there's a scene that, or even a reference to like a night or an encounter that may evoke that imagery. Jacob had a good thought here that Avienda weaving a gateway from the room that she was in, remember when Avienda's busy washing herself before the igloo night in Seanchan, Rand walks into her, she weaves a gateway from there, but she couldn't have known the room that well to just generate a gateway. But I went and I read up on it, and not knowing your current location well enough does not prevent you actually from creating a gateway, but it makes it incredibly difficult for that gateway to lead to where you intend. And if you consider where Avienda's gateway went, that tracks, right? Like she didn't know Seanchan existed, let alone tried to go there, right? So she just wanted to get away and had no control of where it went, and it sent her straight into a blizzard on the other side of the planet. So I think I will allow it. Vili, you're going to enjoy this one, but after the Battle of Cairhien, Jacob says that Vili said he could relate to Rand when he woke up not knowing where he was because he suffered from epileptic episodes. So maybe he's the Dragon Reborn. If that's true, we're all screwed in this turning because everybody knows that Vili is the darkest of dark friends.
I like that one. You're screwed.
Sure you do.
Jacob also enjoyed all of our Tame versus Demon Dread discussions, and he wanted to know when Tame was turned to the Shadow. And to me, it seems kind of unclear, but what is clear is that Demon Dread does claim to be the one that coaxed him to join the Shadow. So it appears it happens during the events of the books. And I think it happens after Demon Dread has actually spent a year in Shara. So it would be pretty recent to where we are in the story now, if it even has happened at this point. It might be that Taim that we've met here has not yet actually been turned to the Shadow, but is just a shit person and is ripe for the recruiting. Also, Rand has shown the ability to see the dark cable that connects Forsaken to the Dark One, and he has severed it. If Taim was already a dark friend and was sheltered from the taint, which is what we said might be the reason that he went so long without being affected by the taint, why did Rand never see that cable? And my response to that was, I don't know if Taim actually had the protection from the Dark One, considering the point above, that he might not even be a dark friend at this stage. But even before Rand meets Taim, he doesn't mention seeing it on Ravin either. And I don't think it actually makes an appearance again at all. Like, can you remember? I think the last time we see it is Asmodean in the fight that they have in Ruidian. There are fine black cables. I went back and I read that fight, and Rand severs those fine black cables, and that is what was his protection from the Dark One. But I don't know if Rand ever, I went back and read the fight against Ravin, nothing about a cord or thin black tendrils or anything reaching to him. So let's keep an eye out when Rand faces down Sammael. Oh, Jody, you've got a knowing look.
I just thought of something. That fight primarily takes place in Tel Anriad. Perhaps he can't see those cables in Tel Anriad. Maybe only in the real world against Ravin. There he comes and throws a spanner in the works.
Jody. Yes.
Yes. So maybe they were there.
Okay. All right. Well, if any of our regular contributors or anyone else knows whether those cables make an appearance again, please put us out of our misery. Otherwise, we're going to have to read all the way to the very end to say it conclusively, and that's going to take literal years.
Indeed.
And then finally, Jen sent in an adorable story about a pigeon being caught with a tiny backpack smuggling crystal meth into a prison, which reminded her of our general lack of respect for pigeons and their abilities. And I just wanted to say that our lack of respect for pigeons is purely based on Wheel of Time pigeons. Normal pigeons, those are fine.
There's backpack crack carrying pigeons are the best, man.
Maybe that explains what the pigeon's been doing. Instead of having like we surmised that they having families in between delivering messages and all of that, they actually start up shop, like delivering crack, prisons. That's like cool. We got the side hustle. What about this message?
Lucrative side hustle.
That one just pays pigeon food. This one pays real money.
Maybe that's like the primary income source is the crack business, and then like the pigeons that are still in there doing their practice.
No, that's where they wash their money. Their message delivery service is actually the most expensive message delivering service out there, but it's also that they can launder money.
There you go.
They only take payment in crystal meth.
It's really fleshing out this world of pigeons.
Breaking Bad, Pigeon Edition.
Trying to think of a pigeon pun to fit in there, but I can't. I'm not quick enough.
Pigeon pun is alliteration. You got something.
Okay, that's it for corrections.
Oh, wow.
Or callbacks, I should say.
Which
tend to be mostly corrections.
To be renamed. Corrections.
Corrections is a segment from a video game podcast I used to listen to a lot, and was the inspiration for callbacks.
Oh, makes sense.
All right. So, previously on Blood and Ashes. Nynaeve and Elaine try to eavesdrop on the Salidar Hall and the emissary from the White Tower, Town of Fear. They use a weave taught to them by Margidian to breach the ward the sisters have put in place. Nynaeve is frustrated and nervous about hanging around in Salidar, and Margidian tries to convince Nynaeve that they should get the hell out of Salidar and head to Cairhien. Nynaeve finds Birgitte and tries to convince her to do just that, but Birgitte will only act on the order from Elaine. Nicola shows up to remind Nynaeve she has copying to do for Delana and Janya, but when she gets there, is only grilled about Rand. From there, Nynaeve heads to a lesson with Theodrin, but along the way crawls up to an open window and eavesdrops the old-fashioned way and hears that the Salidar Hall will stall even longer rather than act, as they wait for the biddable child. As she leaves the window, she notices Theodrin has been watching her, but says nothing. They head off to their lesson as a mysterious woman watches from a second-story window. After another unsuccessful attempt at breaking Nynaeve's block, Theodrin instructs Nynaeve to stay awake so they can test her while exhausted. Back in their room, Nynaeve tells Elaine about what she'd heard before they walked in on by Tana Fear herself. She tries her best to convince the girls to return to the tower. Tana dismisses Elaine and grills Nynaeve a bit longer, and after she leaves, Nynaeve goes to find Elaine. But after Tana's grilling, Elaine is even more determined to stay in Salidar. They use the Tel'aran'rhiod and the need mechanic to find the Bowl of Winds in Ibudar, and after they return to the real world, Nynaeve does stay up as instructed by Theodrin and gets emotional when thinking about how much she would love to be able to channel when she wished. Egwene spots Swan and Leanne in Tel'aran'rhiod without recognizing them, then spends the rest of her evening romancing Gawain in a series of his dreams. While Nynaeve is trying to stay awake on a stool, Salidar is set upon by a bubble of evil. The Salidar Six seem to have a half-baked plan for dealing with an attack from Sammael, which this was not. The next morning, the Wise Ones check in on Egwene, who is healing after the attack by Lanfear. Healing is happening slowly because Egwene is exploring the world of dreams despite being told to rest by the Wise Ones. She quizzes them about the nature of dreams and approaching dreams in that void. In Salidar, everyone gathers for the departure of Tana Fear. After she has left, Ramonda addresses the whole town to say they will stay a while longer before making a move. Elaine and Nynaeve try to convince Sheriam and the Salidar Six to send them to Ibudar to search for the Bowl of Winds, but with no luck. Nynaeve gets frustrated and snaps at them, laying bare all their insecurities and faults, which earns her and Elaine a pot-scrubbing duty. Which brings us to Chapter 16, called Tellings of the Wheel. Tell us about the wheel, Jody.
Yes, I shall. Thanks for that recap, Moritz. I had forgotten 50% of that. So
I figured, and that's why I went a little bit more detailed than before, just to really kick off the cobwebs.
Yeah, all of that, that bubble of evil in Salidar. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that happened.
That happened.
Major event. Anyway, it's good to know. So, chapter 16, we are no longer in Salidar. We are no longer dealing with Nynaeve and her petulance. We're back with old Rand, since he is the main character of this book series.
And his petulance.
Petulance abounds. We're not going to get rid of it. We're just changing between characters. Excellent. Rand is petulantly lounging on the dragon throne of Andor while listening to the most boring human on earth, Helwyn Norrie. He's going over this month's accounting. I also do accounting, and it is very boring, so I can relate. But his mind is surprisingly not focused on the 1,423 refugees from Marundi or any of the other refugees from anywhere else, because there's a whole bunch of them. Alana's presence through the bond is distracting him too much to pay attention to bony old Nori. She is there in the back of his mind. This is a big thing throughout this entire chapter, is her presence really freaking him out. Yeah, between her and Luz in his head, it's getting real crowded.
It's getting crowded in there. Jinx.
So, shit, man, this poor guy is not having. And Luz is also getting very rowdy in there. He's very chatty. And it gets worse and worse as these chapters go on. So Rand is already like, fuck this shit. I need to get as far away from Alana as possible. The thought is already in his head. But, as usual, duty calls. She's got things to do first. Bashir sticks his head into the door to let Rand know that some high-ranking Andoran nobles have arrived. But not just any high-ranking Andoran nobles, but Dylan, Lorien, Abel, I'm going to pronounce it to not confuse it with Abel, and Luan. All right, so he's been waiting for them, so he dismisses Nori rather abruptly, so he can take this urgent meeting, but Nori is unfazed. He just stops talking mid-sentence and leaves. I love this old dude. He's very chill. He is not a petulant child, as everyone else is.
Unflappable.
So Dylan and co, as I will call them from now on, because I'm not going to name all four of them every time, are a bit taken aback by all the Aiel that are crawling around the palace. But they hide their unease with varying degrees of success. Dylan best of all, and Elorian worst of all. Bashir announces them with a little speech he and Rand had prepared earlier, filled with flowery titles for the Dragon Reborn and whatnot. They are outraged. I mean Dylan and co, to see the throne of Andor up on a pedestal and the dragon throne in its place, but they fail to hide this outrage on their face. Like they failed to hide their shock at the Aiel. This amuses Rand tremendously. So with Rand's training from Moraine quoted in these passages quite a bit, and his time in Cairhien and in Tyr, he have honed his skills in the game of houses, so these guys are like an open book to him. They think that they are being subtle, but Rand, sees right through them. He makes
not bad for a sheep herder.
Yeah, he's come quite a way. But then again, he is starting on with these Andorans. It's pretty easy pickings.
Yeah.
So they just practice for him at the moment. But he makes it clear to them that he is not a conqueror. Like, he's not going to welcome them. This is their land. But he is glad that they came to talk. He escorts them to sit down and have some chilled wine while they have a chat. There's purposefully no cheerful Bashir, who at that moment leaves the room, dismissed like a common servant. And Dylan and co, and their faces away, give everything away once again. This reminded me of the Avengers. There's a scene where Black Widow's introduced, and she's being interrogated by those Russians, and she gets a phone call. Mm-hmm. She's like, I'm in the middle of an interrogation. This guy's giving me everything. And I not give everything. Exactly like that. They think they're being cool, but Rand is just like playing them. Him and Bashir have planned all of this to lessen like their concern over a foreign army and Andoran soil. And like they've played them out, planned everything, and they are just falling for everything and showing all of their cards on their faces. I know that's a mixed metaphor, but there you go.
It is a cool image.
Yeah. So yeah, it's to make them think that maybe Bashir is not such a great influence on Rand. All is well. Like he's just being treated like a servant. Like he is, what is he? The uncle to the queen? I want to say uncle. Yeah, to Queen Tenobia and everything. So like someone he's of high standing, and he's being treated like a servant. So like, oh wow, this is great. All right. So they play some more Dies Demar. Rand hinting that he hopes that they are the cure for Andor, that Andor needs, and not the other assholes, nobles that Ravine had around him, like Amarilla and those other dicks, and who Bashir had escorted Dylan and co past on their way in to see Rand on purpose again. So it's just setting them up. So Rand is trying to tell them, like, listen, I want you guys to help me get Andor back on his feet. not those other guys outside. But if I have to, I'll have to use them. So they talk about finding Elaine to take back the throne of Andor. Dylan is pleased with this plan. Dylan's cool. I mean, she always... We spoke about this in another podcast, I don't know when, ages ago, when I looked it up. But she always supports Elaine from now until she comes back. The others, though, the other nobles are not too pleased about this. They want to support Dylan, obviously. After what a heavily compelled Morghese had done to Andor and to them, they want Dylan on the throne. But, of course, Dylan's not having any of that. They talk a bit about the rumors flying around about him. He is one of which is that he killed Morghese, that Rand killed Morghese. Rand doesn't want to know which of the wild conspiracy theories they do believe, because there's a whole bunch of them. But he's like, why would I kill Morghese only to want to put Elaine on the throne again? It doesn't make any sense. They're all staring at him during this conversation, taking their turns and looking at him slightly weirdly. And it's freaking Luz out. Luz is chatting in his brain constantly as well. They're onto me. But Rand tells them that he wants to prevent Andor from, falling to the same fate as Cairhien. He wants their help. He promises to leave Andor and never return once Elaine is on the throne. It's like, guys, seriously, I got other shit to do. Let's get this done. But they are concerned he is a liar and a madman, both valid concerns. And that he's going to set his Aiel savages or his Asha'man on them at any moment. So they've got some pretty serious concerns. But Rand tells them, listen, Tarmon Gai'don is coming. We need to decide quickly here if you're going to help me put Elaine on the throne or not. I say good day to you. So end of conversation. Before they leave, he asks why they were looking at him strangely earlier. So it turns out he looks very much like Tigraine. He puts two and two together during this part. He goes, Finkelstein is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkelstein. Shael is Tigraine. Tigraine is Shael. But of course, the others, they don't know the whole Shael thing. They don't know what the fuck's going on. Nah. So they just chalk up his similarity to her to coincidence. They ask him about his lineage and everything like that. So we get a recap here of the whole history about Luke, her brother that buggered off as well, and Gitara Morosa, who was involved, and she was the advisor to their mother, and then Laman's pride, that led to Laman's pride, and everything else that happened to put him onto the slopes of Dragonmount at birth. The whole series of it. If this didn't happen, that wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened. The whole line of destiny to get him to be there at this time doing this thing. Luz is jabbering on in his head again, and when Rand snaps out of it, he realizes he's just staring at a wall, but is actually staring directly in the direction of Alana. Again, he can feel her, he knows where she is, and he's like, I have got to get the hell out of here as soon as possible. But before he can scamper off, Bashir is there again with news that someone else has come to see him, a messenger from Lord Brend. Dun dun dun. Oh, so, well, in that case, I will stay for one more meeting before fleeing to Cairhien, he thinks, and they bring in this messenger. This poor dude is under some hectic weave. He's basically just a passenger in his own body with a forced grin on his face and fear in his eyes. I thought this is kind of if you into DC Comics, this is Joker's laughing gas mixed with Scarecrow's fear toxin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He tells Rand he has a message from Sammael, and then he goes full possessed. Sammael's voice coming out of his mouth to talk directly to Rand. Rand knows it's his voice because of Luz's memories, obviously. He wants a truce, and I have in my notes here in all caps, ha 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 ha. Just until everyone else, gotta try. Just until everyone else kills each other off so they can face each other at the last battle, one-on-one, as it is meant to be. Rand, for, just a split second, thinks, oh, how awesome a truce would be. Imagine not having to worry about Sammael for a while. But alas, he is a fucking Forsaken, so can obviously not be trusted. Having seized Saidin without realizing, Rand gives his reply to Sammael, which I've paraphrased as, go fuck yourself. But I am going to hold you accountable for every single death that you have caused since the Age of Legends, basically. Justice is coming for you, you absolute wanker. And then to actually quote from the books themselves, no truce with Forsaken, no truce with the Shadow. Whoa, I got goosebumps.
Oh, come on, Jody. Truce with the Shadow is not such a bad thing. I mean,
Shut up,
we
Billy.
all live in
Here we
peace.
go.
All you gotta do is take a knee.
Let's take a knee. It'll be cool. And I can rule just under you. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we'll figure it out later.
I want it in writing before I make any decisions. So this was not the answer Sammael was looking for, so the messenger self-destructs by bleeding out through his paws. Ouch. There's a scene where he's dying on the floor with blood oozing out of his paws, and he's kicking, and like his whole body is like flailing around, and it's smearing the blood all over the floor. I was like, whoa.
That is him
Hectic
going
scene.
into critical bonitis.
Indeed. So that's where it comes from. So, I mean, but everyone around is just stands there watching him die. You know, like, meh, I've seen worse. Fuck, I haven't. Nobody's fazed by this. Rand orders the messenger to be buried and say a prayer for him. You know, was he a dark friend or was he just a victim of Sammael? Like, who knows? So say a prayer just in case, you know, couldn't hurt.
Do the right thing.
Yes. Good oak. Rand announces he will be spending the night in Cairhien. Avienda's like, oh, cool, I'll come too, because she just snuck out of nowhere. She's there too. Surprise. She has business with the wise ones, and Rand's like, fine, cool, you know, whatever. Bashir reminds Rand that he was supposed to inspect the Saldaean horsemen, but that's being postponed till tomorrow. Like, mañana. This happens a lot. This has happened before. Like, Bashir's like, where are you going? You said you would inspect my
Palms
troops.
him off all the time.
All the time. Like, he's like, Bashir has marched across half the world, dedicated like 9,000 horsemen to him, and Rand's always like, yeah, fuck it, tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
Well, what kind of army is it if you need the top of the top brass to come and inspect you? I mean, then surely someone's not doing their
It's
job.
for morale. It's for morale that these
Look,
guys
man,
know.
send them
Foreign
like
land, the dragons.
a Lord Dragon's signature, like a card, maybe some hologram on or something. There's your morale
Some
boost.
autographed paintings.
Send them a gift basket, some apples. Yeah. So anyway, that's not happening. He has got to get out of Andor and away from Alana, even if it is just for a day. And that's where we end the chapter.
All right.
Chapter had a
Really?
lot of words. A lot of words.
Not a word.
It's very, very wordy chapters.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue every single chapter of every book ever
Yeah,
written
but it's
is wordy.
Action words versus words. Like,
A lot of conversation, you mean? Just like a lot of talking.
Yeah.
This is just like, this is like a little appetizer for what basically all of book 10 is going to be, right? Like this whole like lords posturing and who's supporting who for the succession
you mean
of Andor.
we're in the test sample of the apple carts for the big apple cart slog. Like we're test driving
like
apple
on
carts.
a macro scale, yes.
You're going to be longing for the days
Political
of those
apple
simple
carts.
apple
Look,
carts.
I mean, a
Yes,
guy did show
yes.
up and get bonitis on the floor after speaking in tongues.
It's true.
That's pretty significant. You don't see that every day.
Some loose theron stuff happening. I mean, there's it's not just plain sailing. It's certainly not boring. What transpires in this chapter.
Definitely not boring. But I have just recently gone through Do My Well, so everything is
Yes,
pale
by
in
comparison, this is
comparison.
dusty.
Yeah. I mean, basically, in this chapter, he meets with nobles. He sets them up, in advance with Bashir to play some game of houses to get them to support him. It's inconclusive, but we know how it ends. Then the messenger comes, and then he leaves. That's basically the nuts and bolts of this chapter.
Rand starts this chapter when he's thinking about Alana. He thinks to himself, if he told the maidens to, and then he stops that thought. Was he thinking like, if he tells the maidens to go kill Alana, then he won't feel her in his head anymore?
Maybe.
I don't know.
He stops himself and he goes, no, you can't do that.
Well, then it's probably the killing thing.
Well, what I do like, and we are going to touch on it in my segment to come, is that Rand approaches every problem through taking the path of searching knowledge on it. Like, and this is what
Mm-hmm.
he's really doing now over the next couple of events. He's like, okay, cool, I've got this bond. What can be done about it? Like he's proactive.
He's hypothesizing.
He's thinking of, sometimes you have a brainstorming session. You like Space Force. Let's a big fucking bomb. Let's get a big fucking bomb.
His thought here is, if he told the maidens they would ... No, how could he even think of that? He had frightened her enough to keep her at bay. Like,
no, he
maybe
just
just
thought about
threaten her
offing her.
maybe, but I mean, threatening her is not going to make the sense of the bond go away.
Maybe threatening her to sever the bond, because he doesn't know how it works. Because later on he asks about it again.
Maybe.
Because he doesn't.
Let's throw the man a bone and assume that he's not.
We were just
thinking
saying
about
what a
having
nice
an
guy
Aes
he
Sedai
is.
assassinated.
Yeah, like he's a good oak. He buried that messenger. Say a prayer for him. Like he's a good oak. He's not.
Okay. Fair enough.
No.
One of the nobles that came in here is Elorian,
Yeah.
and she was Morghase's friend. They were close, and she's the one that Morghase had flogged
Yeah.
for asking Morghase why. When Morghase was under compulsion, she had the temerity to ask Morghase why, and Morghase had her flogged. So she is, at this point, very anti-House Trackand.
Yeah.
So later, when Aramilla and Elaine are contesting for the Lion Throne, Elorian remains neutral, and I think some of these other guys as well. And when Elaine eventually wins, she refuses to follow House Trackand, and she actually storms out of a meeting. So even though Elaine had at that point got the throne and the crown, she sort of runs away. But right at the end, I think one of the last times you read about her, it seems like she and Elaine start to patch things up, because Elaine invites her to like a play or like some musical performance or something, and she agrees to come and to attend. So all indications are that eventually Elorian patches up her relationship with House Trackand, but right now she is quite anti them. Did you guys also, when you read about Dylan staring at Rand quizzically, did you immediately think it's because Rand looks like Tigraine?
Totally.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
I highlighted it. It's like, I'm going to pick this up. I'm so clever. And then like a couple lines later, it just said it out. You look a lot like Tigraine. Like, oh, come on, man. But just on that as well, it's like, it is crazy what a pivotal role Gitara played in the events of the books, with Tigraine, first of all, obviously telling Shael to go, off. I don't know why she did the whole Luke thing. What role, I mean, other than we know Luke and Isom, meeting in the mountain, in the high passes and becoming Slayer and all that sort of stuff, but why is it important for Gitara to have told Luke to go seek his fortunes? Unless Luke, being of questionable moral fiber, may have gone off and searched for Tigraine instead and found her and prevented her from becoming Shael, or maybe something along those lines. It's just a piece of that puzzle that Rand's sort of putting together, and he goes, oh, of course. And then she told Shael to go, and then she also had the foretelling when Rand was born on Dragon Mountain, Set Swan and Moraine on their whole search. So she, part of the Dragon Reborn storyline is very obvious. But
that seems plausible, that she sent him away so he wouldn't go after Tigraine, but she didn't know what would happen to him. Just like, don't go there. Like, she had no foretelling about him.
No.
Well, maybe it was
she did tell him. She is the one that told him to go find his fortunes in the Blight. That's basically what she said.
Well, it's
Lots
maybe
of fortunes
just
up there.
Weird, right?
The cost of getting the one side of it going where you want it to go is the cost of him going the balance. The good has managed to make its path to where it needs to be, so there has to be a balance in the bad. I mean, there's always this
There has to be a
thing
balance in the Force.
Yeah, no, there's always a balance between good and evil in this book throughout the whole thing. It's all about balance.
Good
There you
observation. I like it.
I like how we just resolved that. Brilliant, guys. Let's try and do more of that.
Great idea, Jody. That's what we
I
should
know,
be doing. Coming up with conclusive answers.
It's taken us a few years, but anyway, we'll get there.
Are we getting the hang of it? We're just hitting our stride now. Rand mentions that he can't trust any woman touched by the tower. Only Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine. Just a little bit. You know, like
And he has his doubts
even
about
those guys.
Egwene.
And that I was about to say that trust in Egwene is tested in a coming chapter that we'll cover here.
Very, very much so.
And then my last note is Urien, the Red Shield.
Oh, yes.
Is the first Aiel that you read about in the books. He's the guy that stands up to the charge of Shinarans when they're traveling with what's his name? Ingtar in the Great Hunt. And they're hiding in the rocks and he stands when they come down from Shinar and the Lancers, the Shinarans, Massima, and those guys charge at him with the horses and he just stands there with his hands behind his back or something. Like totally just chilled out. It's the same guy.
Rad. I did not know that.
I thought the name looked familiar and I looked it up and yep, there he is. Okay, should we move along?
Can do.
All right, well then, chapter 17 is called The Wheel of a Life. Villy, take it away.
The Wheel of Life is basically like the bee goes and eats the leaf and then there's honey or something like that.
That's not
exactly
how
it
bees
works.
Eats the leaf. Amazing.
No, I very much. We're in a Rand point of view, and we're continuing on this very wordsy quest. Rand has decided that he has had enough of Camelin, and he is going to Cairhien, and he makes a gateway just right there and then into his travel room in the Sun Palace. He's got a special travel room so that people don't get sliced in half, which is a sensible thing. It's like a helipad, except there's no lights and buzzes when the helicopter's coming to land.
Well,
so
there are torches.
There's torches now.
There's torches along the sides.
I'm just thinking the poor bastard that's got to refill the torches because the torches left burning all the time. Someone's got to go in there. Someone's got to
arms out wide along the walls with his back to the wall,
scooting like along. I don't want to get chopped up by the man. Anyway, Rand arrives at Cairhien. And he's still entertaining the maiden's behavior. They're still jumping through, even though they're going to a palace. It's the safest palace, probably the safest place out of all of them that he's been. They're still going, and he's just, at this point, just like, let them just be. Accept. Can't argue these things the whole time. Now that he has stepped through the gateway, he still feels Alana, and he's now got her somewhere far away in his head, but she's still in there. Luce, on the other hand, he's there, and he's talking to Rand, and Rand is now starting to question: is this guy talking to me? Because things pipe up sort of relevant to what he's seeing and what he's experiencing. And I think this is where Rand's sort of awakening comes to, that this isn't me thinking another life. This is a man in my head. I'm insane. Now, Corman of the Masada Goshin, or he's a brother of the Eagle, meets him there. So he seems to be the head of the Aiel, and Havien Narel, who's Lord Lieutenant of the Winged Guard of the what is Berlain's Mayaner, and Rand basically just thrusted, go find Rock or Berlain, but whatever you find first, just get them. I want to have a meeting. And Rand is irritated, and he's irritated because he turned around to look where Avienda is, and she just legged it. Like, he's been avoiding her the whole time, and now that she's there, he kind of wants to keep a little bit of tabs on her, and she's legged it away. Like, okay, cool. I was just here for the ride. I didn't want to go to the wrong place, so she just basically took advantage of a ride, but she legs it.
Rand's just a glorified Uber.
That's it, Rand/Uber. Finally, Rock and Berlain had made it on their own steam there. The news spread, and Berlain is all scantily dressed, and when she courtesies to Rand has to kind of like look up.
I love
because things hang out, and Rock, on the other hand, is just Rock with his old knife and same old. She immediately asks about Matt and Perrin, She seems to always ask about Matt and Perrin. But Berline, on being quizzed about how everything's going, pretty much says everything is going as well as can be expected. Rock, on the other sense, like everything is well. So take that for what it's worth. Now they're having a little bit of a thing about what's happening as they walk the walk to the, which I will dub the war room, the map room. Rand hears fighting in the hallways, and fighting turns out to be a bunch of youths. These youths with times on their hands. So a bunch of Cairhien noble youths have now decided that they are going to live like Aiel. They're going to impersonate this. They're going to form their own society. They're going to learn. Woman is going to learn the sword. And it turns out that Berline's giving them safe places to practice this because it's so accepted among the nobility that these girls are picking up swords. And they've now taken Gai'shain because there's all dressed in white, which Rand first thought were servants, but now it turns out to be some of the noble lordlings that's been taken as Gai'shain. For how long and to what end, not sure. Now, Ruach then gets on a tangent about this. It's not proper, and they raping basically their culture. And Rand, it's kind of like, you know what, just let them be. At least they're not killing each other anymore in duels. So, it's not the end of the world. See it as a compliment that they have realized that in the last 20 years they've had two skirmishes with the Aiel, and they've lost considerably heavily both times. So maybe they're picking up some of your ways, and maybe that this could be the turning that you might actually like them, Rock. So it's not all that bad. Now, Rand wants an update on Egwene, and he really wants to see her. That is, if the wise ones will allow him to, of course. Rand then sends his maidens and say, "Hey, a little bit of downtime. Get some R&R. You can leave two with me, whoever. Reds, I don't give a damn. But you guys go. I'm inside the palace. I'm safe. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to the school. Like, go catch up with your family and friends where all the other Aiel are." Surprisingly, and without a fight, they accept this and all depart and go on their way. We think they accept this. Little, we'll find out. They have now made it to what I dubbed the war room, and there's books and maps all over the place, and it's a busy room. You can see there's planning and things happening. And Ran asks them, like, how is things really going now that all the eyes and ears are kind of gone? And still pretty much the same, like, as well as can be expected. And Ruach saying, yeah, well, it's going as well as you can. They start talking about some of the noble houses that's planning rebellion. There's talks of rebellion that's going to happen, and Rand's like, okay, cool. At least that's constant. There's minor houses and houses that's going to try and align. And Ruach is just worried, like, they've now got men. Once it reaches 10,000 men, then it's a problem. Then we'll have to deal with it. But in the interim, let them just do their plotting as long as we're, I suppose, aware of what's happening. The Shido have moved up to Kingslayer's Dagger. No idea, but it doesn't seem like there's any intention of them going back to the Threefold Land. And it seems that they're putting up holds, which is quite interesting. There's rumors of fighting in Shara. Rand is like, what am I going to make of this? Like, it's not another place that I've got to take over. Like, let that be. And well, Ruach is also quite opinionated of the Sharans. They cannot be trusted, and they lie about everything.
Is this the sort of the insurrection that Demandred sparked?
I'm thinking it might be. That's it's one of the reference. This, I mean, what's the like we always said, red herrings or red herons as being planted. So this could potentially be a little bit of a red heron that didn't.
It's the only fighting that we ever hear about with any kind of detail, like what actually happened, right? Like when he sets the indentured sort of channelers, he has them rise up against their oppressors and sets them free. They've got names and everything. That whole the bow and the wild and all their prophecies.
The Ayad or something, I can't remember.
Yeah,
it sounds familiar.
Whole heap of things over there.
The crux of it is it's infighting. It's fighting amongst themselves, not being attacked by anybody. Because it can't be confused with the Sean-Chan attack. And it's weird because for thousands of years they've been at peace, supposedly. Like they never fight amongst themselves.
Yes.
So major internal conflict is happening. And that's only because of...
Rand writes that off to like... Not my problem.
Other shit to worry about.
I've got too much.
Yeah. There's fighting on the other side of the Aiel Waste. Cool.
Yes.
Check
luck,
back
guys.
in with me later.
Now, some other news. The Sea Folk ships have also, or Sea Folk ship has dropped anchor in the harbour, which is out of place.
Does the Sea Folk ship sell seashores on the seashore or something?
On the seashore.
Sammael. Just leave me be.
It's the same ship Matt saw in Arengil.
Sunny says Sunny sal 7 sakke sout sleep. Yes, I think it might be the same ship that dropped off and set on to go all the way, because it makes sense. There was only one at the time, and they kind of just did a F1 style pit stop the last time at Arengil when Matt was there. Now the Jelani interrupts them. So the two Aiel that was escorting Rand was Jelani and I can't remember the other name now.
Was it not the Red
Derek?
Shield?
Dedrick.
It wasn't Urine.
No, it wasn't Urine. It's Dedrick and Jelani.
Yeah,
Those two. Just so you know. Okay, with that, she interrupts them and says that Mangan is there to see them, and Ruak's like, and he's like, no, Mangan can wait, but Ruak's like, no, look, I think you got to deal with this one. So it turns out Mangan has come because he's got tow to Rand, because he had killed a wetlander for getting a dragon tattoo. Rand's like, you don't have tow to me, you've got tow to the man that you murdered. Like, let's get that straight. And Rand is actually quite pissed off because it turns out it took them 6 days that they've known about this and they haven't done anything about it. Maybe they didn't do anything about it because Rand is quite fond of Mangan. It's actually one of the people that he likes. And Mangan straight out says like, yeah, this happened. What is it? What's going to happen? And Mans says, law's the law. You will hang. You murdered. And he accepts it and walks through and says, let me know where and when. It's not like he's being taken into custody or anything. He's like, no, don't worry, he'll be there when it's his hanging. And but yeah,
I think Berland is shocked or something.
Yeah,
like,
she's completely
that
shocked.
This man you're telling me he'd willingly walk to his own hanging? And the others are like, well, yes. Rand even gives him an out. He goes, you defended yourself, right? And he goes, no.
No, I saw that too, and I just murdered him. Like, yeah.
Here lies Mangan. Never killed a man who didn't need killing.
That's him.
Yeah, and Berylane, in her defense, was like, she's not used to men walking in admitting murder. Like, what do you do with that? Like, it's just not something. And yeah, both of them failed to deal with it. And that brings us to the end of chapter 17.
I think Rand says Mangan was one of the Aiel that breached the Stone of Tyr.
He was. And he liked him. Yeah. He really liked him. Like, you know, it's a hard thing to have to carry the burden of being the law enforcer of your own laws.
Yeah.
In
that heavy lays the crown, or duty heavier than a mountain.
Heavy mountains of duty will rest on your shoulders, and you will not be able to carry them, and you will only carry them until you die, something like that.
This is where my earlier reference in your introduction came from. Crushed beneath the weight of responsibility. I mean, it is rough. This part hit me harder than I remember it hitting me in the past. In the past, I was sort of like, okay, yeah, well, Rand is just following through with what he says. But here, I can really feel Rand's anger and disappointment and frustration. You know, like, fuck, like I didn't want to do this, but I said the thing, and I need to, you know, for lack of a better phrase, make an example of this. This is what will happen. Even a friend of mine will be hanged. And then like that inner turmoil he directs at Berelain and Ruark for not acting, right? Like he's fucking pissed off with them now. And rightfully so. I mean, Ruark probably agrees with Mangan that the guy needed killing.
Yeah, he does.
Right? So he probably feels conflicted about sentencing him to death. And like Berelain said, she's not used to like someone just admitting it, and she might be a little bit out of her depth there.
I mean, it's pretty rough. It's Rock is seeing all these things that's changing in his culture as well, and the testing of their culture through copying, copy, slap, paste by nobles. I mean, it is it would drive a clan chief to wanting to stab someone.
Totally. I didn't make a note about this, but as you were describing it, I was sort of thinking that, again, when my younger self was reading this, I was like, man, Rook, just chill, man. They just let them copy you, you know, like, what do they say? Imitation is the biggest form of flattery or something along those lines. But it is very blasphemous, right? Like the taking of Gai'shain, it just makes you roll your eyes. Like, you guys have no fucking idea. If you want to copy it, but don't call it the same thing, you know? Like, don't say you're following G-Ito and then you fight with swords, which, you know, goes against everything that Aiel stand for. Right? Like you are shitting all over their culture. Call it your own thing, but the words cultural appropriation went through my mind as Billy was describing it, which sucks because I am typically like I don't buy into that sort of stuff, but this does show a level of disrespect, I think, and a lack of understanding that I find as an Aiel supporter and lover, I find it offensive. And, it's interesting because it never struck me like that. I always just think, oh, these stupid idiots, but now I'm like actually offended.
But yeah, look, intent is very important here. Their intent is not to offend. So
of course not.
Their ignorance is causing a problem. It's not.
That's what's frustrating.
No person that ever went to a party painting blackface intended to offend.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't think you can say that. I think we see later, I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but one of the young women who is practicing the sword and taking up this G-Ito thing is Selende, what's her name?
Yeah.
She's the girl that Colavir sends to Rand to try and flirt with him. That Rand then freaks out with stories about the taint on the source.
Yes.
And
Back when was that? That was
she's gone from the. This is immediately after the liberation of Cairhien against the Shido.
Like Rand has this talk about like
Shido,
like there's a little freak out moment, and she legs it out of there quite quickly.
She backs away like into a pillar, like she walks into something and then runs off. Yeah, same one. I think it was in the last episode or sometime very recently we were talking about when the fuck did Rand put Berelain in charge of Cairhien? I stand by what I said. I don't think we had read about that before, because you get here Rand's whole rationale. Like he's analyzing the decision and he's going, this is why I put her in here. And it's working out because she does seem to be a competent
You said you'd put a pin in that and check that. Did you not do your homework?
Here's me putting that pin out going, I was right.
All right. He's unbelievable.
I'm not going to reread the book to see where Rand may have dropped that, because, I mean, it's since Rand left. Rand has not been in Cairhien in our experience. Like, we have not read from Rand's point of view in Cairhien since he left to fight Ravine at the end of the previous book.
So I'll also touch on this because being finished Lord of Chaos and going directly on, there seems to be quite a bit of, and especially in this catch up to the event that ends off the Lord of Chaos. Like, it's almost as the first, I think, up to 10 chapters could easily have been part of Lord of Chaos, because it explains so much and even goes to be before, like time rolls back to things that happened before the whole Do My Wells event. So,
in Crown of Swords.
Crown of Swords. The beginning of the first few chapters is really sort of just that same event still. It's like, you might as well just
so it's reverberating across books.
Across books, and I think that is something that maybe, as I in one of the audiobooks, there's an interview with Robert Jordan afterwards, where he says he never reads his own books after it's done. So the only time that he actually listens or gets the whole thing is when he listens to an audiobook. So he would listen to the audiobooks, but he would never read the book himself. So maybe he's sitting there kicking back like, cool, listening to the audio, like, ooh, maybe I should have explained that.
I'll shoehorn it into the beginning of the next book.
I'll just make a note. I'll stick it into the next book.
But he does an even bigger version of that later when Rand cleanses the source. I think the whole next book is just like points of view of people like sensing this massive channeling event and like what happens immediately around that time, but from different points of view.
I remember.
So yeah, maybe he tried it out and he went, I like how that sits.
Because
let's explore this a bit further.
Because that seems like that needed planning after that.
Yes.
From everybody's different perspectives, not just something shoehorned in like, oops, I should explain this. That was planned. Well, I could be wrong.
Rand recognizes Pedro Niall's influence and skill at manipulation, as he suspects he may be behind the Cairhien rebels, just as he was with Darlin. So Rand is savvy to Niall's machinations, which is good. Makes me feel warm and fuzzy that Rand is not just forgetting about Niall and his aspirations.
Pedro denial.
Pedro denial.
Pedro denial.
Vote for Pedro.
Sorry, I misspoke. Pedro denial. Rand also thinks if he was meant to rip the whole world apart, he would keep Andor safe for Elaine.
Cute.
Rand, that's not smart or right to do. Rip the whole world apart so he can hand Andor to Elaine. You're letting your feelings cloud your judgment here a little bit, buddy. Just slow your roll.
He's a human being. And he's whipped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And then my last note here is I love how Ruach and the Aiel in general, but especially Ruach, have taken a liking to Berelaine. Like they obviously kind of respect her and they aren't fooled by her overt sexuality, because I mean even the Aiel sometimes like use that sort of, like the maidens are also sometimes overtly sexual in that way as well. But they see her for what she really is, which is an extremely effective ruler. And it kind of makes me like her a little more too, you know, like if the Aiel can vouch for her, then, okay, she scores a couple of points in my book as well. Which is great. I don't want to only dislike Berelaine for all that parent bullshit. But
honestly, it's been liking her more and more.
She's vouched for. A little bit. It's becoming a running theme here, right? Like a lot of characters that I used to dislike now in my older age, I am actually understanding a little bit better. Like look at Galahad, right? I used to outright dislike him, and now I'm like, he's fucking great, actually. Now, everyone, just cool your jets.
If you continue on this trend, you will see all the good in Lanfear. You will feel compassion for Moghedien. You might even start understanding Sammael's perspective. Like, just give it a little time.
No
truce with the shadow.
Speaking of Lanfear, that was something that happened over the holidays. Yeah. She's alive.
Lanfear faking her own death.
I don't buy it. Also, like, the internet is just memes of people going like, really? She's alive? I don't give a fuck. I don't believe that. No one accepting it.
It did come from Brandon, who wrote it, so...
Cool. It changes nothing. Like, so what?
No, it doesn't change an awful lot for me. People seem to think it has some major effect on how Perrin is portrayed in the last book, because apparently he should not be able to be compelled for some reason, but that I don't buy. So I'll read it. I'll keep my eyes open. People saying
Yeah.
that it puts certain actions and things into more context. I think someone posted on Twitter recently that whole interaction between Lanfear and Perrin in like book 2 or 1 even, where Perrin's standing in front of a mirror and he's got,
2.
maybe it was book 3 actually, where he's standing in front of a mirror and he's got like the armor on and a lion's head helmet next to him, and Lanfear's saying to him in his dream, like, you can chase whatever glory you want or something. It seemed this really like out of place scene. People are saying like, oh, now that makes a lot more sense. I don't know about that. I think people are now just applying it to every single interaction they had and trying to extrapolate some kind of planning and plotting from it, but I don't think that's it. Anyway, with that bit of information, we will read things and we will apply it and see if it changes anything for us. I doubt that it will. All right, move along.
Moving along swiftly.
All right, Vili, you did so well with the last one. Why don't you also do chapter 18, A Taste of Solitude?
We sure will, and we're carrying on exactly where we were, except there's a map. New map, guys. Did you see that? New map.
Hey, I saw
We
the
see
map.
a square city.
It's real blocky.
Real blocky, next to a river. A blocky map next to the river. All right, Rand announces now that he is going to the school after he set Mangan's hanging for tomorrow. Just shows them, if you need to get something done, don't delay it. Set that hanging for tomorrow. He'll be there. He'll get hung. Rand then bugs off to the school and tells Pereline, I know there's all these people, there's lords and lordlings and this and that and everything else that wants to see me. Tell them best advice is not to follow me. I'm going to do my thing at the school. And she does that very, very well. And Rand is escorted by Deirdrick and Jelani. When Rand gets to the school, he bumps into what I assume is the school principal, Edrine. And she was already expecting Rand. So he gives her a quick quip and says, like, okay, cool, how many spies do you have in the city? And she doesn't reply. She just rolls it on, saying that they've put together a demonstration for him of what's been happening at the school. So this appears to be more like a school of come and test your, not a school, like a experimenting place to come and build things. It's not like you sit down and get taught, this is the current technology that we have. This is how you apply it. You dig a hole and plant a seed. No, they're finding new ways to do agriculture and all the rest. Now, at this point, pays to say that the school is set up in Barthane's old palace. So the school is rather large because he had a rather big piece of property, did he not? I think like second largest palace or something. So they've got
the Ogier Grove is his garden.
Yeah. I mean, what a university site. But a bit of the theme, Rand is very determined that if he breaks the world, I'm not leaving it dumb. I want there to be schools and knowledge that's going to be passed on, which is quite
Is he leaving a foundation?
Ooh. Joe, I made that note.
Very good. Very, very good. Now, they then go on their little display tour of things that people have been making, which turns out to be a paper making machine, which makes way better, finer paper, sort of your Xerox quality white paper that you're going to feed through the machine. And to add on to that, they actually made a Xerox machine, and they now have a printing press, which I assume is still very archaic in mechanism, but still it's there from various...
This is a better printing press. They've had a printing press before. They have books with printed shit.
So from plows and agricultural equipment to a new loom that's going to weave a lot better, and sewerage and infrastructure works, and everything's on the cards. And then there's a madman inventor in a corner, and he's got a thing of brass and bells and kettles and fire and he's making a steam locomotive. This guy's on it. He's gonna revolutionize industry with steam. And I'm like, you go, you set us up. Next is gonna be
He's by
internal.
far the most important person in that room, just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, someone should tap
And
him
that's
on
when the Wheel of Time turns steampunk.
Yeah. Rand then seeks out Kin Tavir. Do we remember old Kin? Kin made the
Lensmaker.
looking glass, and he is very much still in. He is now making bigger looking glasses, ones that's going to see the ends of the world and the stars and the skies. Rand very much likes what he does with his glass and awards him 100 gold crowns as a prize for being the most thinkiest of people in the show, I suppose. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about Steam Locomotive Guy. Someone should tell him, hey, maybe don't burn stuff for energy. Just from another age, could potentially not end well. Like, you know, we're going to sort the Dark One's problems out now, but you still don't want the climate going fucked. And it's like, stop burning things.
It's all right. They got the bowler winds. They're fine.
Maybe the bowl of winds don't work in the next age. Stop burning shit. Anyway, there's also someone that's busy making what can only be perceived to be a plane, but there's little models and draft things. But this woman already so stunned by the Dragon Reborn being there, she couldn't really explain it. But it's got wings, and it looks like she's busy making a copter. What? A thropter.
A thropter. An ornithopter.
Yeah, then we move to Herid Fel. Now, Herid Fel is the historian who sits, and he's so he would have been a Brown sister if he was an Aes Sedai, I assume.
Yeah,
and he's so taken by it, he doesn't realize his pipe's not lit when he's sucking on it, and there's ash everywhere on himself. He's just so into his academics that he's not quite there. So Rand makes his way to the historian, and he tells everyone else to move on, and he starts quizzing him about several things and asks him if he had time to think about it. One of them is when Rand brings up the Aes Sedai bond and how it can be severed. And he's like, no, just kill the Aes Sedai or kill the water. That's how the bond gets severed. So
that's what I thought.
And Rand's like, what about that? I thought about sending some maidens, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the way, but keep thinking about it. Rand also asked him to do a little bit of thinking about Tarmon Gai'don and the last battle, and this guy went on to a full philosophical. He went down the deep end that it cannot be the last battle. Now he's drawing diagrams in the airs of wheels, and he's like, if we drilled the hole over here, and the wheel the time is circular like the wheel and not linear like when the Dark One takes it over, it means that the hole had to be there in the first place. And now I'm like, did the chicken come first or did the air come first? Was the hole there? Was the hole just wax seal plugged and Merrin drilled into the plug hole that was already there? And is this the first turning of the hole being there? Have we actually walked this life again? And it becomes super philosophical, and that's where Rand's like, whoa, I need time out. Okay, this is going a bit far. But it basically comes down to, unless the Dark One breaks free, we're not going to remake this time correctly. So it's hinting to a lot of things that Rand should start to know for the final battle. And I think it's about his death and that full circle coming, about him accepting that he has to die. I don't know. Could be wrong, but it's quite an interesting red heron in the grass over there. Through all of this,
red heron in the grass.
Through all of this, Luz, the madman, is going off in his head. He doesn't stop. He's going incessantly on, and especially around breaking the seals. And Rand poses the question about should the seals be broken, and he's like, "Oh Lord, I don't think you can even break the seals." Type of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's questions being asked. Now we stop that over there. We leave Rand and we jump to Egwene, who is on the move. She's heard Avienda's there and she wants to find them. She does find Avienda, who's already with the wise ones, but Sorelia is not stoked with Egwene just sticking her head in there, and tells her that she's not been summoned. And it's kind of odd for Egwene that she's kind of like not, she's been wanting to see Avienda so long, but something got Avienda like a cat out of a bag straight to the wise ones. In this moment where Egwene is cornered by Sorelia, she finds herself drifting off into her sexy time dreams with Gawain, and she goes plump red in the face. And Sorelia gives her one look, saying, like, "Are you planning to place a bridal wreath at someone's feet? Because a girl your age only goes plump red like that if she's thinking about a man. And is it this dude with the big scar face that's..." And she goes off on a tangent and having to explain to him how sexy he actually is naked in the sweat tent. And Egwene's like, "God, I can't know. Sweat." Yeah, Sorelia has no shame. None. She's match made many a people. It seems she's like the queen of matchmaking in that set. But Egwene says, sadly, Aes Sedai rarely marry, and she's foremost still an Aes Sedai. She's not even an Aes Sedai yet. But anyway, the Gashine Niella very meekly sticks her head in, and Egwene asks her if why is Avienda with the wise ones, and she tries to change the topic, and also like, well, I wouldn't. Avienda's not going to be stoked if I didn't get this done, and she could have evades the situation as well. Rand then eventually joins, and we've got Rand and Egwene now together. And she just goes off as soon as Rand walks in, like, "Rand, you need to help me with the wise ones, and you need to get..." And he's like, "Whoa, hello, how are you?" Sort of just slow down. "I'm happy to see you're alive and up and going." And she's, okay, cool, apologetic about that. And okay, let's just have a conversation. But she even perceives Rand. Rand grabs one of the chairs and turns down, and she thinks that even the way he sits down is arrogantly. So they've obviously got their mind made up about Rand, and like in what he's doing, they have got their perception now that he's arrogant and so king bossy.
They still see a sheep herder, but Rand is literally the king of multiple countries.
Exactly.
He's
right.
Like brought the hundreds of thousands of Aiel out of the waste and is like controlling multiple countries. Like he's not a sheep herder anymore. Just
got to deal with it
relax,
now.
Egwene.
Egwene says to Rand that I know that you would like to hear from Elaine, and tries to manipulate Rand that if he can get her to get back to her training, she can bring tidbits of news to Elaine. But Rand is like, no. Rand basically then tells Egwene that he really needs Elaine. Like, this keeping her separate and where she is not working anymore. This is serious now. He is under pressure. There's rebellions everywhere, whether it's in Cairhien or Cairhien. The nobles are plotting, and he needs to put someone on the throne, and he needs Elaine. And Egwene at that moment can feel herself ready to just spill the beans on Salidar and where Egwene is and everything. And it's like she just like realizes that she
opens her mouth to
like,
speak.
the words is gonna come out, and she realizes what's happening, and it's like, oh shit, it's the Vera nature, and the only thing she can do is to grab onto Salidar and sort of, okay, cool, this will sort of do a little bit of power to help me fight off his Deverian nature. And Rand immediately feels it, and it sets him off. Like, he is not stoked when a woman channels unexpectedly or at all around him at the moment. She's still apologetic that she can't tell Rand where they are, And there's something about cats in hats and hats and breeches. I'm not sure how a cat in a hat made sense there.
It's a saying. I'll look it up while you keep going.
Yeah, there was a cat in a hat, and then she didn't care if the cat was in the breeches. But anyway, we now go to a Rand point of view on its own, where he just basically thinks that and acknowledges now that she is as cool as any Aes Sedai, and she will keep the Aes Sedai secrets. And he has to think of her as Aes Sedai, which means he has to sort of cut certain ties from Egwene, which is quite sad. I think that kind of realization now that
this is what we were talking about before. Like, you can only trust a couple people, and Egwene was one of them. And here he's like, actually, she's first and foremost, she's Aes Sedai.
She is.
The cat in the hat thing, Vil, is his anger was swallowed by a maddening grin. It was frightening how quickly that could happen with him. A cat for a hat, or a hat for a cat, he quoted. And then she thinks, but nothing for nothing, she finished mentally. So it's basically Rand saying, oh, you're not going to tell me where Salidar and Elaine are? Then I'm not going to help you with the wise ones.
Okay, so that's what it means.
That's the deal she was trying to make, and he started saying the thing that ends with, but nothing for nothing. Basically giving her answer, well, I'm not going to help you either.
Lines have to be drawn. All right, and then we jump to a last little point of view of Sulin, who is playing a knife, and then she hears a night owl whistle in the middle of the day. And then she's like, he's leaving again. And then she realized, like, man, trying to keep Rand's tabs on Rand while trying to not be there is very, very difficult. Like, this guy's just too movie for her to be able to do this.
Too movie. Too thinky, too movie.
Yeah, anyway. And that brings us to the end of that very wordsy movie chapter.
Wordsy movie thinky.
I love it. I love it. Shame Sulin at the end there, she thinks nothing must happen to the only son of a maiden that has ever come back to them.
Yes, she's very much a mother. How old is Sulin?
They are.
She's like old, isn't she? She's, she's grey already.
They always talk about her white hair, but I think she's just blonde.
I don't know. I keep feeling, and especially after some of the comments that was made after, remember, she gets put into white quite soon. And when
I don't remember that. I have not read ahead.
Okay, I'll leave it. But I think she's
yes,
old.
Billy.
You can't make reference to stuff that's still going to happen in this book.
All right. Look forward to reading.
But Sulin is obviously a maiden of some influence. Isn't she the one that confronts Rand at the docks in Cairhien before the Lanfear attack about taking away all their
she's breaking their spears,
their honor and all that stuff? Yeah, so she is very, very prominent. At one point in the beginning here of this chapter, when Rand is assigned a red shield and a maiden as a guard, he goes, one of each, it figured. But Rand wondered if Euron had to wrestle Sulin to make it so, which I thought was just cool. Like, it's such a also throwaway line, but it's just another one of those examples of like Robert Jordan taking every single opportunity to remind you of the defining characteristics of those characters, right? Like, constantly of both the Aiel, of Sulin in particular, the maidens, like just that line, you're like, yep, that tracks. And you almost read it and you don't even recognize it anymore. But the reason we are so into these characters and we've bought into this lore and these cultures and stuff is because of lines like that. It's just like constantly, did he have to wrestle her to get a red shield to be one of the guards? And you read it as a matter of course, which is cool.
Isn't this in these chapters where it's Jelani and Derek that are outside his door and they like
outside Herid Fel's door?
Yeah, and he's like, Derek is
I think so.
pointedly not looking at her, and Rand notices it immediately, and he goes, "Have fun, guys," and then leaves.
Yeah, I was like, he says to them, "Enjoy yourselves,"
Oh,
and they sort of like that gives them the. Which I had a note about that because it's like, oh, cool, Rand. You also didn't have to say that, but he's still being a person, yeah. Like he's still being.
But it also shows he knows much about the Aiel culture already. Like, he knows that's how they caught each other. And it's so obvious to him. And he's like,
no, but you guys are all missing the very big point here. This is Rand starting to get Aiel humor. This is a very Aiel humor
as well.
thing. Like you very much pin on someone that's in a love interest. It's been like a bit of a topic. There's like when one of the wise ones was courting, was it Baal or
Melaine? Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like pinning on there, like even the wise ones haggling each other about the gifts and this and like when it comes to two of them liking each other, it's like, okay, it's fair game to pile on.
Yeah, that's true. But then later in my chapter, he doesn't get it at all again. So it's, it's a work in progress.
Not when it comes to himself.
He's not all the way there.
I have some notes, surprisingly.
Please.
Yes. Well, just what came up while we were talking about how we perceived Rand, how Egwene perceives him. And this is, part of from my chapter, that Moraine's voice is ringing in his head all the time. And when he meets with with Dylan and them, and Moraine he remembers Moraine saying, like, how people perceive you the first time is very important. If they see you walking down from a throne first,
true,
and then see you act like a pig, they'll always remember you walking down a throne. But if they see a farm boy first, they'll always remember you like that. And that's how Egwene sees him. She remembers him as a farm boy. She'll never see him as the king of Ilion.
It's confirmation of that exact phenomenon.
Exactly. Also, Herid Fel playing a big role. Like, isn't he that he helps Rand cleanse the source, figure out how to do that. He helps Rand figure out the breaking of the seals and how to reseal the bore. Like, he is a complete loon. He is not on planet Earth with us, but
and is murdered.
By the Grey Man, hey? I
think so. Or a golem or something.
A golem, that's it. Yeah, he dies fucking horribly. I meant to say golem.
Yeah.
And then Rand as well, when Egwene's about to tell him because of his Tavirianness, he's using his Tavirianness. It's not just happening. Yeah. He leans forward and like actively tries to use his Taviran powers. Like, whoa. Like, not only can he channel, but he can...
works.
Yeah, he almost, like, with sheer will of force.
Afterwards, he thinks, like, what good is it being Taveran if it never works for you? But he does not know how close he got to actually getting it from it. And Egwene, when she embraces Salidar to sort of protect herself against it, Rand interprets it as her feeling unsafe and trying to protect herself physically. So he's missing completely what is happening in that interaction. And she also misses... Or like another thing he misses is she says she thinks the first thing she thinks of Rand when she sees him walking is like, fuck, he looks tired. And then after the interaction, he goes, well, at least she didn't notice how tired I was. No, Rand, it's literally the first thing she noticed. She knows you so well, you cannot hide it. I enjoyed that interaction between them. I thought it was really cool. Like, the fact that he is, again, he's grinning at her. He's lounging in his chair, he sits back and he pulls a chair up to sit down and face her, which is great. Like he's interacting with her, he's present and he's focused on her. And he sits back and he lounges in the chair and he puts his feet out and that sort of thing. It's cool to see Rand. I'm doing that action. That's why it sounds like I'm further from the microphone, because I'm reenacting Rand's posture. But it's just cool to see Rand talk to someone from Eamon's Field and carry himself in that sort of more relaxed way, despite the fact that she is resisting and they are bargaining and he is effectively dealing with the tower representative.
Indeed.
Any other notes, Joe?
No, that's that. I'm noted out.
I'll go through them in order again. Rand says to Ruach and Berelain, hang him tomorrow, tell him I said so. Like, now not shying away from it either, like, it's tomorrow and I'm the one that decided it. And then he catches himself waiting for the response from a dead madman that lives in his head.
Yeah.
Yikes. Rand thinks to himself, anyone wanting to ambush him would find they'd come to the shearing without clippers. Still thinks like a sheepherder.
He is a sheepherder,
yeah. They talk a little bit about the famous topless towers of Cairhien. So if the topless towers, by being unfinished, are a wonder of the world, imagine what the finished product is actually supposed to look like. Like, they are wondrous enough in their unfinished state. So like I have to change my mental image. I always think of Cairhien as sort of like,
Flat.
I know they talk about the towers and stuff, but because they're unfinished, I think of it, like flat, like a squat sort of square place. But these topless towers must actually reach quite high. And I'm sure they mention it. But
It is a
that's not what
square
my
place.
teenage
as
brain
the
remembers.
map showed us. Very
Yes.
square.
The towers themselves are also square.
But I mean, they were a wonder of the world before that. They burned down in the Aiel War. They're repairing them. They're not. It's not like.
But I read it as like the fact that they are in a state of half built. That even that, like they were
Yes.
famous as the topless towers. But maybe you're right. Maybe they were granted their wonder status when they were actually fully built.
But even destroyed, they're still magnificent.
Mm-hmm. Ian Yellen wrote in about this, but apparently there are many schools actually being started, not just this one. He mentions
There's
one in
Tyr
Tyr
as well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And this is where I had the note, Joe. I'm busy watching Foundation, which is doing the same thing, which is fun.
Yeah.
It's in the chapter there
Harry
it says
Seldon.
that there's not the only school. There's apparently one in Tyr, 1 year. So Rand has set up multiple schools, and then there's also his Ashaman school. There's so many schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's like you were saying, Veli, like Rand is very good at studying everything before. Like when he went to go get the Aiel, he was in Tyr for like 2 weeks just reading books. Like that's very much his thing. Education is very important to him.
And it's never really stated outright. Like he always does it, and Vili picked up on it and keeps commenting on it, and it's true. Like he is very calculated. He studies his subject matter and then tries to find the best way of doing things, and often in surprising ways, which is really cool.
And I blame
for a sheep
Tam
herder.
for this. Tam must have instilled this in him from a young age.
Absolutely. I mean, can you pick a better person to have raised him? Fucking hero.
Well, Lanfear could have raised him perfectly.
You mean groomed him?
Edit that out, Moritz.
So it seems Idrian is the one that built the mystery ballista that was killing Shido.
Yes.
Aiel that we
I made a note. I wanted to talk
reading
about
about.
that. I just couldn't remember the name. She made the big crossbow when they were.
Yes. I have another note here. That's a great band name, Mystery Ballista.
That is.
What else did I have here? Luce Theron's mad ravings about breaking the seals likely led to Rand asking Fel about it, and I'm pretty sure it's Fel who tells Rand that it will actually need to be done to reseal the bore. So Rand's little episode that he had when Taim brought the seals, like that actually was like a trigger for what will eventually become the actual solution. But then here, Luce Theron goes, break it, not break it, and then reseal the bore. He's going, break it, let it all be done. Like Luce Theron's doing it in a very like nihilistic, self-destructive way, not in a sort of constructive problem-solving way.
You're not helping, Luce. Shut up.
Well, inadvertently, it did kind of help. Is the point of
Yeah, but
I
it's
guess.
the delivery of the way it's being said there. It's just like
He's
put a little bit in context.
your tone is all wrong, Liz. Your intention is off.
That
off
intent
target.
is the key again here,
Yes. Egwene still not perfect. Lots of problems. Her sort of like petulance again around like being left out of the Avienda conversation, sort of barging in, sticking her nose in where it doesn't belong, and also how she just can't understand why the Aiel treat Berylane as a woman with sense and respect. Just showing her small town thinking again.
Yeah.
Just
She only sees what's on the surface. It's a very pleasant surface, but there's more below.
Yeah. All right, that's all I had. So if you guys don't have anything else, we can forge ahead.
Let's do.
Righto. Then that takes us to chapter 19 called Matters of Toe. Take it away, Joe.
Toe for Joe. Listen, you are about to go on a quest of confusion with me here, so strap in.
Okay.
I don't get G Ito at all still, so
Okay.
I have some questions later. All right, so Rand is so ready for a good night's sleep. He's far away from Alana. Avienda's not sleeping next to him with her undressing and sexy breathing. He is going to cup such a dos. Have a super sleep for those non-Afrikaans people. But
from Jeffreys Bay and our friendship circle.
There's a lot of those listening to this podcast, actually, so they'll get it. But alas, his dreams have other plans for him tonight. So his dreams are warded, of course. So that keeps everyone else out. But there's already some pretty fucked up shit in his old noggin that he can't do anything about. So he's dreaming now of show wings and Joe cars, cities gleaming and impossibly tall buildings in the Age of Legends. But something in this picture is off, and then the show wings start falling from the sky, and the buildings collapse, and the city burns, and the earth heaves, and he dreams of Ilyena, and he wakes up sweating and holding on to Sidene already, and it's like, oh fuck, now I'm dreaming Loose Theron's dreams as well. Like, this is getting out of hand now. He's dreaming for two. So he has no plans on going back to sleep after that shitstorm. So he just stares at nothing in the dark and waiting for the sun to rise. Eventually, a Gaishain enters with his breakfast. But he's not in the mood to eat, so he gets dressed and heads out. Outside in the hallway, the maidens and the red shields are, of course, already waiting outside. They are guarding him, but they're not alone. And the hallway is packed with people.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, just like
these dudes just hanging out outside his room.
I know, like there are like 100 people outside his room.
Yeah, I had to do it like a double take. I had to read that section. Did he walk into a room? No, just standing in the corridor.
I know. I read that twice as well because like I even have a note about this. I mean, Avienda and the wise ones are there too. Like. Literally everyone. Even when he wakes up, I thought, like, this is my note. Even when he wakes up early, he's still the last to arrive to whatever's happening. Everyone's like outside tapping their feet, like, where the fuck is this guy? It's like, I've been in. If I'd known, I was lying awake for like 3 hours now. I could have been doing stuff. But anyway, besides the usual, like talking about the wise ones, besides the usual suspects of Bear and Amis and Melaine and Sorelea, we have some new wise ones to worry about. There's Chaylin, maybe we've spoken about her before, but I don't. She's of the Maya Goma. And there's a young Edara of the Shayande Aiel. Fun facts. She is very strong in the power, this Edara. She fights at Dumai's Wells. Vili can confirm that. And she eventually ends up joining Perrin and helping him rescue Fail and all of that shit that happens later.
Sweet.
So she hangs around for a while. Keep an eye out on her.
Great.
Berilane is there too, but not Ruach or any other clan chief. I wonder if that's got something to do with the wise ones that are there. Regardless, the rest is made up
Or they're getting ready to hang Mangan.
Maybe that's why.
Today's the day.
It is the day. Shit. I never thought about that.
Downer. Sorry.
That's it. I'm done. Cheers. The rest of the people outside, they're made up of Cairhien. Colavier is there, still pissed off at Avienda for beating the shit out of her, which is now common knowledge, apparently. Everyone knows. I think it's more, well, not more about people knowing, and also about the beating. And she's like shooting daggers at Avienda, figuratively. Debrain and Marangil and a bunch of other minor nobles. I've listed some nobles here, and just to take up time, because I know that we never have enough time on these podcasts. The Terrans are there.
We don't have long enough lists of nobles either.
Of course. But you got to keep track of these people, because if not, I never remember who they are. So the Terrans are there, of course. So we've got the Aiel, and then we've got the Cairhien outside that ring. And outside that ring, right at the back, we've got the Terrans. In their puffy sleeves. But they look like a bunch of fools. Malin is there. Fionda, I thought it was an interesting name. Character of no consequence, though. Don't worry about it. Anayela, who is a dark friend. She has a whole story that I won't go into, but keep an eye out for her. She's also around for a bunch. Maracone, Goyam, too. I don't know. These two
always do that with his name.
Goyam. They were big buddies with Hearn and Saman, who, if you recall, are the people that rebelled against Rand a couple of chapters back. They fled to Haddon Merk, where they're hiding out. Rand then stripped them of their rank and their titles and their lands and everything. So he's keeping an eye on these two as well. They were thick as thieves, those dudes. And then, you stole my line earlier, even Salande is there, who was one of Colivir's puppets. Yes, sent to reduce Rand. Seduce Rand.
Reduce Rand by seducing Rand.
Exactly, but he did not fall for that shit. She's now one of those young Cairhien women who's playing at being maidens. Everyone's there, basically. Waiting with bated breath, apparently. Literally, no one's speaking. Some whispers around, except for Egwene, who Rand thinks is probably, and I quote, lolling in bed. Doesn't really think very highly of her.
No.
Where's Egwene? She's probably lolling in bed. What? Anywho, he gives them a little speech saying that he can't talk to them all. Like, oh, sorry guys, I don't have time to chat to you all. I'm heading back to Cairhien this very morning. Berylane kind of like interrupts him, his departure at least, to tell him in front of everyone that they are going to hang Mangan this morning and for him to come and watch. Rand again, not pleased with this whole Mangan murder, hanging shit that that Ruark and her are carrying on about. He's not going to play favorites with the Aiel, even if he did like this one. He's not going to watch every execution of every murderer. So later, everyone, I'm off to Cairhien. There's a little interaction there between Berylane looking at the wise ones and Sorelea going like, basically, I told you so. But, worth a shot, I suppose. Everyone is stoked that he's leaving. To them, the less Dragon Reborn, the better as far as they're concerned. So he, like, when he said, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you all, they were all like, oh, thank God. I'm glad. Please leave. Berylane is getting very, very friendly with the wise ones. They seem to consider her one of their own. So we got to watch out for that. And Rand should watch out for that too. Like we were just saying earlier, like, she's capable and intelligent, and they see that.
I wonder if Idara is going to be teaming up with Perrin later. Isn't Berylane around then as well? It'd be interesting to see if there are interactions between Idara and Berylane.
Look out for that. Lots to look out for. Yeah. At the traveling room, again, Berylane is very formal in front of the Cairhien nobles, and she says, quote, I will tend to Cairhien without fear or favor until you return. Just a reminder to everyone that she is in charge, and this is something I think that comes from Sorelea, from the meetings with the wise ones. Like, they've been coaching her on how to maintain power and be
command
in charge.
Respect.
Command respect, exactly. That's a total wise one move. Gotta be. Because like Sorelea looks at her with a little smile like, there you go. Well done, girl. To Rand, she asks again that he sends regards to Perrin and to Matt. And I'm like, don't you mention Perrin. Easy now. Everyone else bids their formal farewells, and Melaine joins them to go back to Cairhien with a message for Bael. But something about her is off, and she's clearly hiding something. Rand just assumes that, she's going to go and try and influence Bael and the other clan chiefs to try and keep Rand in check, I suppose. That's always their plan anyway. So as soon as they are through the gateway, Alana's presence comes crashing back into his head, and Rand senses that she has been weeping. He thinks it's about himself, but no, dude. It's not everything is about you. Obviously, crying again about her warders that have died. But Rand, with a big no-no, had gone through the gate first, and Sulin gets right up in his face about it. Rand doesn't make a scene about this. Yeah. Literally and figuratively. Rand doesn't make a scene about it, but he does tell her from now on, 2 guards are enough for when I'm around in the palace. He's had enough of the shit, and he stalks off, leaving her gaping with her mouth open. No one puts Sulin in her place like that. But Rand is now tired of her crap all the time. Avienda is at his side, and apparently she smells so good. Keep it in your pants, Rand. There is so much sexual tension between these two over these chapters. All this gatewaying around is bringing back some very sexy memories for both of them. And Rand is feeling it and thinking she doesn't, and she's feeling it and thinking he doesn't, and there's lots of confusion here. They head straight back to his rooms. Not for that. He asks her if the wise ones know where Elaine is. She pauses, but answers truthfully, they do not. Well, truthfully for her at least. And the wise ones did speak of Rand, though. Like, she asked about Elaine. She got a negative answer on that, but there was some stuff that she had to relay to him. Turns out the wise ones have been having shared dreams about him, so it's important. Again, of him on a boat with 3 women whose faces they could not see. We talked about that in the callbacks. I didn't think it was going to come up. I thought with 3 women, I thought Avienda, Elaine, and Min. But now, because it's on a boat, I don't know. Is that those 3, or has it got to do with the Athenmere that are in town? Because there is a boat. I don't know. And there are 3 women on that boat, are there not? It's like the mistress of the sails and I don't know what their titles are, but I think we'll find out, Landon, soon
Sails
enough.
mistress.
Anyway. Sails mistress.
The wind finder.
Something else. Yeah, I don't know. Something along those lines. But anyway, there's a second dream is of a man he couldn't see by his side with a knife to his throat. Now, Rand interprets it as a grey man who's come to assassinate him. He thinks it's super clear, but I interpreted, before I read that how he did it, of someone that he thinks he can trust, who's actually against him. That's a threat to him. That's how I saw it. Like, he doesn't see the danger because he trusts this person. I could be wrong. And the third dream is of him cutting Randland in half with a sword. Which he's like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fuck shit up. I'm the Dragon Reborn. But later on, of course, we find out that he divides the land between the Sean-Chan and the rest by cutting it basically in half. So I'm assuming that's what this dream is about. The wise ones have no clue about what any of these dreams mean, but they thought he should know about them. And this to Rand is like, well, that's weird. I can figure out at least 2 of these. And he explains them to Avienda, and Avienda's like, I don't know. If the wise ones didn't know what it was, I don't think you do either.
I don't think you do, no.
Yeah.
I also certainly don't buy the grey man one.
No, it's too obvious.
Yeah.
But the 3 women...
And also Rand... The 3 women and Rand has to be a Min, Avienda, Elaine thing.
What's with the boat, though?
The love boat.
I can't remember.
That's it. It's the love boat. That's clear as day. Philly, that's great. Thank you.
Trying to think who the man with a knife to Rand's throat could be. Could that be Deshiva or Taim?
Probably Taim. Like, Rand doesn't trust him, but he doesn't see how big a threat he really is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting,
if true. They had another dream about rain coming from a bowl. Okay. To us, pretty much straight up understanding this. Because this is what led me to think about the boat, the 3 women on the boat, because later on they have another dream about the Bowl of Winds, and we know that the Wind Finders and the Athenmere are involved in that, and so I thought maybe it's some connection to that. But anyway, around the dream about the Bowl of Winds, they also dreamt of snares and pitfalls around the bowl, and if the right hands pick it up, they'll find a treasure as great as the bowl, and if the wrong hands pick it up, the world is doomed. So I know that the bowl is in a room, which is a cache of other Ta'angril and Angreal, and all kinds of cool shit is in that room. So they need to get there first, because there's something else in that room, which I have no memory of, that might be super important. Am I on the right track?
Unless the Bowl of Winds itself is super important. I've always been a little bit sort of like scratching my head about like the entire Bowl of Winds plotline. So much time and words and pages are dedicated to that whole Bowl of Winds plotline, but it seems totally inconsequential unless I'm missing something huge. Like, cool, it changed the weather. Great.
Yeah, but I mean, look, the weather is super important. They can't grow crops. They can't feed themselves. Like, the Dark One's trying to starve them out.
But immediately after they use it, they actually fuck it up first.
It's the overcorrection of the weather that comes back, because then it goes straight into winter. It's like summer.
Yeah, like a hardcore winter.
Yeah. Just skipped over summer and then went straight into winter.
Got to get a Monty Python quote in there.
You got it at some point. So it's like a an overcorrection. I don't think it's them fucking it up, but also it says there that if the right hands pick it up, they'll perhaps find a treasure as great as the bowl. So the bowl isn't this treasure it's referring to. Like there's a second treasure. So
okay,
I don't know. Raffo
sounds like a good pin.
Missing
pin it there for
good and coal. Like the first access key.
No, but they have
self-destruction access key.
Only ever read about 3 keys. I looked it up when that one that Egwene saw in the Tenchiko. It's the only other one other than the 2 that Rand has.
Anyway, I suppose we'll find out. Anyway, the key to finding the bowl is to find the one who is no longer. And Rand funnily goes, no longer what? Well, no, someone who doesn't exist, someone who's dead. Anyway, write in if you know what that means, if you remember what happens next, because obviously they find the bowl, and they obviously find it by finding the one who is no longer. But I don't have any memory of that. But the wise ones...
Do they not find the bowl somehow? What is that innkeeper in Ibu Dar who used to be an Aes Sedai? Satal Anan or something like that.
Ah, that'll make sense. The one who is no longer an Aes Sedai.
Perhaps. But I don't know if she's at all instrumental in them finding the bowl. I don't know.
Anyway.
Time will tell.
Indeed it will. The wise ones don't know how to interpret this dream either. So they've been pretty fucking useless. Thanks, guys.
We're all fucking lost.
Thanks for nothing. Avienda stands up to leave. She was, by the way, sitting on the floor this entire time, as the Aiel do. And Rand is sad to see her go. He's about to say, well, do you have to go? But he stops himself. And then Rand asks her again if she would rather not go back to the wise ones to resume her studies. Maybe it's better they spend some time apart. Like her work is done with him, He feels like he was born an Aiel. And Avienda does not think this is the case. She heartily disagrees that he is nowhere near ready to call himself Aiel. And she won't leave, as she still believes that she has toe. And here we go into the whole... the whole toe thing. So Rand thinks of 2 reasons she would have toe to him. The gift of Laman's sword cleared one debt, and he hopes that she will never learn of the other. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the other is either. What are these 2 toes? Does anybody know?
I think the second one is him bringing her back to life by killing Ravin. Like, he hopes that she doesn't find out that he basically brought her back to life.
Through time travel. All right.
She thinks that she has toe towards Rand because of him saving her from Lanfear.
Yes, they mentioned that. Okay.
She does, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that later on, because then she leaves after that.
Yeah, we'll get to it now.
Yeah, exactly. Right outside the door.
Yes.
She leaves him, baffled by women, as always. But when she closes the door, she loses her composure. She's working hard to keep it together in front of him. And she's like kind of slumps against the door once it's closed on the outside, and she feels she still has much toe towards Rand. And I'm like, are they thinking of the same toe? What is going on?
They are not.
They are not thinking of the same toe. All right.
No.
So Leah, the maiden guarding Rand's rooms, gives her an encouraging smile. She looks at her, sees the slump, and goes, "Oh, girl, I know." Avienda's still a bit touchy about this, so they get into a hand talk argument. Long story short, Leah wins, and now Avienda has even more toe, but only a little. So we do learn something about the hand talk here, is that after you've said something and you crook your little finger, it's like said in jest or
sarcastic,
mockery. Yeah. So yeah, anything. She then heads off, thinking that killing Rand would meet one toe and killing herself would meet the other, but each blocked the solution to the other. And I'm like, my last note is, I'm so fucking lost. I don't know.
That tracks 100%.
Okay, so the first toe that Rand thinks Laman's sword absolves is because Rand gave her a gift. And he thought that she had to give him back a gift to make things even. Right? He gave her the bracelet. Right? Was it the
All right.
bracelet?
Yes, Rand gave her a bracelet, but Rand didn't know that it was a courting gift or
Courtship. Yeah. No.
So he just
no.
thought,
But
like,
according to Rand,
oh,
that one's
yeah.
sorted.
Yeah, I know about that one.
That
The
one's
sword.
cancelled out.
Chip, chip. Okay.
Then
What's
Rand
the second?
says the other one that he prays that she will never find out about is the one that she was dead and came back to life.
Okay.
But the one that she's thinking of that she owes Rand is because Rand saved her from Lanfear. The one that she owes Elaine is for sleeping with Rand.
Yes.
So she thinks the only way she can make things up to Elaine is by killing herself. But she still has to make things up to Rand because he saved her from Lanfear.
And then there's still the minor toe for him not taking the sword, only taking the blade and giving her back all the jewels that is worth more than anything else. And she's saying, like, well, now you've gone and spoiled everything by giving me all this value back.
Okay, go back. What about killing Rand? How would that meet a toe? What toe would that cancel out?
Yeah,
It's
what would killing
easier
Rand achieve?
to just not understand any of this, and I think it's meant to not to be understood. It's just this thing that should create confusion in us as wetlanders because we just don't get it. The best you're going to do is to start getting Aiel humor, and I might never be able to get that either.
I just had an image of Robert Jordan like finishing off this chapter, sitting back in his chair, folding his arms and going, that'll get him.
That will fuck him.
Well, he did. Vili, I refuse to accept that. I am definitely going to try to understand the toe situation. It seems like it should be straightforward, and I will do it as a callback.
You think that you can think like an Aiel because you like the Aiel.
No, Vili. I think that I am.
Okay. Even one level higher.
This is the last line of that chapter. Killing Rand al'Thor would meet one toe, killing herself the second, but each toe blocked the solution to the other. What?
Okay, so obviously killing Rand has got nothing to do with saving her from Lanfear. So it must have to do with the other toe that she owes to Elaine.
By killing her, the one she's betrothed to? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you are Elaine's, you belong to Elaine. Like, like she's so dedicated to getting those two together. How would killing Rand help that?
Rand did cheat on her.
I give up. Seriously.
Rand cheated on Elaine and therefore deserves to die.
That's a bit hectic. Cheated on Elaine with
Aiel.
her.
Which is why she wants to kill herself. But she can't.
Yeah.
Because she owes Rand.
Okay. Yes, I understand everything. Thanks, Moritz. Moving on. Shoo, weight off my shoulders.
Excellent. Okay. So that was it, hey?
Yeah. I hope so.
Okay. That wasn't a very long chapter, and I don't have an awful lot of notes. So, do you guys have anything?
No,
I've got 3 notes.
If you want to explain toe and fully understand it, and you've got all the answers, then go for it. But if not, just go like, yeah.
I would like. Listen, the opposite to Vili. If any of your notes refer to toe, then you do not
shut up.
Do not speak.
Keep them to yourself. No, they don't.
Then you may proceed.
The one was just that Rand thinks to himself, he wished he could make Salidar believe she had nothing to fear. This is the same young woman he scared the shit out of when talking about the taint on Sidin, like after they liberated Cairhien, which we've already touched on. The other one was the man with the knife to Rand's throat. Was that Taim or Dashiva? Dashiva is a guy that is a Nashaman, right? Like, he doesn't trust Taim implicitly, but the Ashaman, I think, if he's a bit less cautious around, so maybe it's that.
Perhaps.
Some people, I think, online were saying like maybe it's Paden Fane, like in a much more general sense, not an immediate danger, but someone that is actually going to endanger Rand's life or become like a life threat to Rand, which Fane does. And then my last question was, does Avienda know that Rand brought her back from the dead? He thinks she doesn't know, but I don't think that she does. She certainly has not mentioned it or alluded to it. Just like I think Matt is also, there's the only person from that trio that was killed by the attack from Ravin and brought back that we sort of read about, musing about it, is Asmodean, who also says he can't remember anything, but he can sense the way that Rand talks to him or that people talk to him, and also from all the other signs, like he can feel time tugging at him now, and he can feel he's got no more protection from the Dark One and all that sort of stuff. He's piecing it all together to find out maybe Avienda and Matt have not actually pieced it together.
Maybe they just feel they were knocked
Just as
out.
he figures it out.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
no more talk of Toe. Let's do our last chapter for the episode, which is chapter 20, called From the Steading. And that is also yours, Jody.
Yay! I thoroughly enjoyed this chapter. First note.
Steading.
And
It
then
tugged at the old heartstrings a bit there, eh?
it did. But halfway through, I started doing my notes on this chapter in the evening with a glass of white wine. And I don't normally drink white wine. So it tastes like nothing. So every time I look down, it's finished. I'll go get more. And then it's finished again. And I go get more. And then halfway through my notes, I realize I don't know what I'm doing. I better stop. So I had to finish them this morning. So yeah, if my notes go off the rails about halfway through, you know why.
If you start slurring through your chapter summary, we know why.
So Rand is just about to smoke it up when Loial sticks her head in the door. So you've got to remember, Aiel don't knock. But before she can even say something or speak a word, a serving man barges in to tell Rand that 3 Ogier have come to see him. This serving dude is freaking out. He has seen some shit in his time. His name is Barry, by the way, and he's worked there for 22 years. But there's Ogier. All right, so Rand's like, all right, cool, take me to them. And rightfully does not summon them to him. So even the Dragon Reborn shows respect to the Ogier. The Ogier are waiting in the courtyard. They've been surrounded by very inquisitive Aiel. And it's Elder Haman, Covril, not Bovril, Loial's mother, and Edith, Loial's betrothed. I wrote, yeah, this is exactly what Loial feared would happen. It's like,
Yep.
Man, my mom's going to come and fetch me with my future wife, and here they are.
And that's
so he was right.
There they are, ready with the fetching.
There they are. Exactly. Of course, he's greeted by "Your name sings in my ears, Rand al'Thor." I love that. That's my favorite greeting. Rand takes a moment to get rid of all the Aiel that are crowding around so that he can have a private conversation with the Ogier, even threatening to set Anila and Samara on Sulan if she didn't leave. So I had to go like, who are these people again? So Anila is one of the eldest of the maidens. She really looks at Rand as a son returned, even more so than Sulan. And, well, Sulan is below them in the hierarchy. So he's threatening her, and that's the second time he's dissed her today. So I'm like, whoa, dude, you better be careful. And sends her off running. So she's... here's a quote from the book. She gathered up the maidens with quick flashes of hand talk in what anyone but an Aiel would surely have been called a huff. Some of the Aielmen were chuckling as they left. Rand supposed he had made a joke of some kind. So, yes, Vili. His Aiel humor is getting there. He's making jokes without even realizing it now. But yes, putting maidens in their place is very, very funny to Aielmen. Elder Haman starts to digress, as Ogier tend to do, but Covril is in a very un-Ogier-like rush. She needs to get to her boy. Her boy's in trouble, goddammit. Haman tells Rand of their eventful outing into the world. They've been traveling a long, long time, looking all over the place for their lost kin. They have been traveling up and down. They've been to all kinds of crazy shit chasing Rand as he travels from one place to another. Like they get to Cairhien and then he's gone instantaneously. So here they are looking for him. They've also encountered the Shido when they arrived at Cairhien, which is a surprise to them. Coverall tells Rand that she's looking for Loial. She tells Rand that she's looking for him, obviously, that he had told the elders at Steading Tofu that she would look after him and that he would look after him, and she wants him back now. I know that's very confusing. I don't know. This is probably where the white wine started kicking in because I can't even understand my own notes. But yeah, she's there because she heard from one of the elders at the Steading Tofu that Rand had him and that Rand was going to look after him. Basically that. Rand is about to tell them that he has no fucking clue where Loial is when he realizes, hey, wait, before I go there, I have some other questions for them. He wants to know, we find out here a bit about Loial, like how long has Loial been out of the Steading? Apparently it's been 5 years. Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long
He
at
was
all.
already gallivanting before he joined up with Rand and them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been on
in
the
the
run
world
for a
for like-
while.
So it's been like, I mean, in the book time, it's like a year, right? Or a year and a half or something.
I think
So
close
far.
to a year and a half.
Yeah. So 3.5 years at least he was out in the world before he even hooked up with Rand. That fateful day in the library. So anyway, surprise to me. So yeah, 5 years is the short answer. We learn that there have been 5 Ogier that have stayed out of steadings for up to 10 years, but 3 of them died within a year of returning to the steading. The 4th was an invalid for the rest of his life, and the 5th needed a walking stick. So pretty serious shit happens to these guys if they stay out for too long. So, I mean, technically speaking, Loial has another 5 years, but then he'd be done physically and mentally. So, yeah, better get him back, I think. So they are obviously worried about Loial for good reason. Rand tells them that, okay, fine. Rand tells him that he is in the 2 rivers. It's safe there. He's with friends. Like, don't worry about it. Like, whoa. A lot of shit happened in the 2 rivers, Rand. Safe is not the word I would use, but it is safe now, technically speaking. So they want to leave immediately, but Rand has more questions, specifically about the waygates. Rand offers to host them for a few days in exchange for helping him out with locating all the waygates, but they want to go. He tells them that the Dark One is using the waygates to shuttle Shadow Spawn around, and that he has set guards to keep eyes on them. He wonders why the Forsaken don't just use gateways to transport all their Shadow Spawn. So we see a little bit of his ignorance in that regard. Thanks a lot, Luz. You're chatting all fucking day, but where's the useful information?
Yeah.
The 3 Ogier confer a little bit, yeah, but of course they agree to help Rand to locate all these waygates. And my favorite part here is, like, I love how Rand calls for maps. He just screams maps at no one in particular.
Maps! Bring us all the maps!
I'll have all the maps, please. But of course, 5 seconds ago he had just dismissed everybody, so no one's there. But old Sulin does hear him, and she sticks her head out of the door, and he tells her to go get maps.
Because she
tells her,
is keeping
run
tabs
for
on
Doris
him.
Mai. The way he tunes her. She gives him such a dirty look over her shoulder, but she runs. She
does.
And Rand over here, another quote from the book saying, he wished he knew how his face looked at that very moment so he could recall it for use again.
Yes.
I'm going to use that shit again. So, we get a long history of all the cities that have fallen over the last 3,000 years while we wait for Sulin to return. And it is a shock to Elder Haman that Rand doesn't know where all the steading are. Like, for example, because he's like, I need to know where all these places are. And, like, so much knowledge has been lost. Coverall comforts Haman, of course, just telling him that their memories are gone. Sulin returns with servants and maps, a lot of maps, and she has even set Gai'don to go look for even more maps, because they are in a palace, there's lots of maps lying around.
She makes a point of saying, I've sent Gai'don to go fetch more maps.
Yes.
The appropriate persons.
Yeah, well, you stuck your head out first, it's your own fault.
Yeah.
She brought a writing box, but of course, Elder Hummer travels with his own writing box. I mean, dude, this is and it's in his pocket. Like, it's a tiny little writing desk, right? Like, I would imagine it's got a box.
I think it was just a box with a pen and
I would imagine
writing
it has stuff
in it.
inside it, papers and ink and pens and things, and then you open it up, take that out, and you write on top. But to be Ogier sized, it's got to be massive. But anyway, it's in his pocket, in one of his massive pockets. So anyway, they start going over all the maps to try and sort them out. They just start throwing them on the floor, basically. They're outside in the courtyard. The ground is just covered in maps. And they're going through all the old maps and the regional maps and the city maps, trying to find good enough maps. And here we get another history lesson of how the world has changed as they go through all the maps and they see all the changes over time. How borders have moved, how cities have disappeared and been renamed, destroyed and rebuilt over and over. How the blight has grown, how it's extended south, how humanity has been retreating over time. Turns out there are a lot of steading. Many were abandoned, though, but they still, of course, have waygates, which need attention. And this is where I don't know if any of our other listeners watched us on the charity stream, but that was one of the questions in our
how many steadings there are?
Quiz was how many steadings there are. I don't remember the answer, but it was something like, what? 40,
60 something, 40
48
something.
or something.
Yeah.
Like
Dang.
huge amounts of steading all over Randland.
That's when I paid attention to this map and started seeing that there's small little icons for steadings everywhere.
Yeah. In some maps, I don't have them
Mine's
in mine.
got
I have
steadings
steading
all over
Shanghai,
the show.
which the big one that we sent you. All right. Well, that's a good map then. I'd need to go and look at that. But yeah, there's a shit ton of them. There's even some in the mountains. One in the Mountains of Mist, right behind the two rivers. There was one. Rand mentions the one that Perrin found when he was fleeing with Egwene, and the crows were chasing them. Remember?
Yeah.
Elder Haman had overlooked that one. He knew about it. He just hadn't got there.
The one
yet.
in the Mountains of Mist is the one that they were using for sending Trollocs into the two rivers.
The main one.
That's right. Well, the Waygate. Yeah.
And then, of course, there's one in Shadar Logoth.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So while they're both on their knees, crawling over maps and making annotations and whatnot, Rand notices that Elder Haman is silently weeping, his tears dampening the maps over everything that has been lost and everything that is how the world has changed. Because he's still got memories, because he's a scholar. He's a teacher where he comes from, and he just wants to get back and go back to his classes and his teaching and his studying. So he knows everything that's happened in the last 3,000 years. He even has like, oh, this city on this map, this disappeared 1,834 years ago, like down to the year and everything. So seeing how things have changed is really devastating to him.
Rand can't figure out whether Elder Haman is crying over the loss of the cities and the people in them, or the loss of the memory and the knowledge of them.
I think it's the latter.
Or both.
I mean, I think the latter has more effect on him. He's not, entirely, oblivious to the fact that people died while this was happening. But I think the loss of the knowledge, that people's memories have faded. Which is
earlier, when
important.
Coverall says he does not remember, she goes on to say their memories are gone. She made it sound the greatest loss imaginable, and Aerith, hands clasped to her mouth, appeared ready to cry.
Like, memory is so important to them.
Yeah.
So one of the last Waygate locations they mark is at Aridhol. Here we go. Shadar Logoth. And Rand asks Haman if he could show him exactly where that Waygate is in the city if he took him there. And I'm thinking, what are you up to, Rand, old boy? Are you trying to prepare yourself for a pose on the front of the next book cover, perhaps? And that's where we leave our friends on the floor, planning a trip to Shadar Logoth. And the next chapter is Shadar Logoth, I think is the title of it. So it's like they go right away.
Why is Rand so interested in this Waygate to Shadar Logoth, Vol?
Needs to shut. It's a very dangerous place.
But doesn't he fight Sammael there and destroys him using the Waygate somehow amplifying, changing?
No, he fights Sammael there, and Moradin helps him kill Sammael in Shadow Logoth, and their balefire streams cross.
Crossing streams, yes, I recall that.
I don't know. I can't remember if the Waygate had something to do with it, but
No, Rand is just really, and especially around the Waygates around home, he's very incessant because he knows that's how they got in there. Like he needs to just make
it's not in the two rivers.
close enough still.
And also, it's inside Shadow Logoth, where they fear to tread. They wouldn't go there anyway.
No.
They did.
And also, the ways themselves are extremely dangerous. Like, stepping into a Waygate anywhere is already really bad.
And then when you come out, you're in Shadow Logoth. Oh, fuck.
Right? So it's not like, you can accidentally step into Shadow Logoth. That's not a problem because the ways themselves are very similar in danger, actually. Like Mashadar and Mashin Shin represent equal threats. So yeah, I was just interested, like Joe, I'm also wondering if he's got a specific strategic goal with that Waygate, and if he does, what is that?
We don't need pins for this. We just read the next
book. No. I'm just wondering. It's like when I read it, I was just like, okay, he's obviously showing a lot of interest here. So, I mean, I'll probably find out in the very next chapter.
They're going over like 40-something steadings and like, yeah, they won. And this one specifically mentioned.
This is the one.
Next chapter.
Go show me this one. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a plan. Billy, what's that plan?
I don't know.
You read the next chapter. He's already forgotten that chapter.
No, there's stuff that goes down there, but there's nothing that stands out. I thought that he wants to specifically go to that one because of, number one, where it is at. The difficulty of it being closed because he doesn't want someone else to go in there. For all the other Waygates, he can send people. He doesn't have to go and close themselves. So it's part of what Loial has been doing anyway, is closing these Waygates, but he wouldn't destroy them. But this one is...
Loial's not been closing the Waygates yet at this point.
No, he went to close the one. He went with with Gaul.
To close the one in the two rivers here. But later Loial is set the goal, the job of go close all of them. He's not been given that job yet. He did that one in the two rivers because of the Trolloc.
I think Rand is preempting that he's going to send someone to close this, but the one he cannot send someone to is in Shadow Logoth. He's got to go and do this one himself.
Perhaps.
This is not one that I'm going to send anyone in because they'll die there. I have to go in there. And then still someone
that makes sense, yeah. Because he's not going to go personally close all the others.
Is Rand aware that Paden Fane has merged with Mashadar? Because that would mean that Mashadar isn't in the city anymore. So now it's not dangerous to come out in that city. That city is now just a ruin, isn't it?
No, Mashadar is still there.
Fane left.
No, Mashadar
is still very
there.
much there. Remember, Moradin is what was his name? Mashadar and Moradin.
Sammael.
No, the man,
Mordeth.
Mordeth.
Mordeth
is the entity. Mashadar and Mashin Shin is their own thing. They are evil of the past that just sort of found a how. This is a pretty grim place. I'm gonna move in here. Look at me go.
You do see Mashadar outside of Shadow Logoth.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
But he didn't take it with him, and now it's not there anymore. He took some of that evil with him. Now, I think, Vinny, you're on the right track. Or at least that works for me. I can reason that out. Like, okay, Rand can send other people to close the Waygates in other places, but he'd rather do the one in Shadow Logoth.
Again, strategic Rand is cutting off. He's got a battle in his head the whole time. It's all he's thinking, strategy. He's got to fight this Forsaken there, but there's the bigger picture. And okay, how do I stop the whole of Randland being overrun? These guys' transport network has to be closed. So that's like one of his plans.
That's a no-brainer. Yeah. We know that. It's just like the uniqueness of Shadow Logoth stood out here. But he also, I don't think he plans the fight with Sammael in Shadow Logoth. I think he follows Sammael to Shadow Logoth in their battle.
Mm.
The only thing he plans to do at Shadow Logoth eventually is cleanse the
Mm.
source.
All right.
Also, when he goes to Shadow Logoth, and I don't know if it's before, if it's now soon, or if it is in the fight with Sammael, he loses a maiden.
Mm. He loses a maiden
One of the
now
maidens.
when they go.
Is it now? There we go. And like he sort of uses her name as this like another name in his list of
Maidens and women that
the
died.
people that have died for him. Yeah.
Is it Jelani?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jelani, no, she just found love.
Cool. Okay, so that happens soon. I thought so. Yeah, it's like on a scouting. Like I remember in this middle of the series, interactions with Shadow Logoth were Rand goes there and he loses a maiden there, and that fucks him up emotionally and mentally, and then he fights Sammael there in book 7, the end of book 7, and meets Moradin, and merges streams, and they start becoming like sort of like one.
Another man in your head. Come and join the club.
Yeah, come, it's a party. Other notes from that last chapter?
No, the Ogiers are harumphing and
Yes.
and taking things slow and crying about my Loial.
Yeah, okay. I have a note here. They just want to go to go and find him. This is like, we got a long journey ahead of us. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, Rand could just open a gateway and take you there.
Yeah, but Rand doesn't want to do that to Loial. He's not telling them that he can do that. I don't think they know that he can do that.
But he does do it now. He does open a gateway.
Where does he take them?
Takes them to Shadow Logoth.
To Shadow Logoth.
And then from Shadow Logoth takes them to just outside the 2 rivers and dumps them there.
All right.
It's like, and don't tell him that I
go.
dumped you, yeah. Like, that they don't implicate me in this.
I was
Loial
never
would be
here.
like, Rand,
why did you do
told
that?
You. But maybe he is actually feeling bad for Loial.
Oh, well, yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
because it's
he's hearing the
serious
absolute
danger.
seriousness there of being the longing and being out of the steading. Like,
Because Loial, like a real teenager, warps the true story in a way that makes it. But there were 5 other guys that were out for like 10 years, and then Elder Haman's like,
Yeah, they're
they
vegetables
were, and
now.
they all went fucking nuts and died.
Yeah, most are dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that's in the best shape was like has to walk with a cane and is like all fucked up.
and he was out for 9 years and 11 months and 15 days.
So yes, Loial. There were others that were out.
There were
but they were the price to
consequences
pay.
at Loial.
But I was quite touched by Elder Haman's sort of like grieving for the loss of memory and stuff, and how even Coverall and Aerith reacted to, they don't remember. It's like, they said it like it was the worst thing imaginable. All right, well, let's plunge into our favorite moments.
This one too? I don't recall.
No, there is now. I'm going to sample that little song from Villian. I'm going to play it every time.
Is that the circus song?
So, Vil, what's your favorite moment?
Oh, it's not very favourite moments here. It was a little bit of a hard one.
Slim pickings.
Slim pickings. I don't know. Like, I thought about it. There was a few little things that stood out with Sulin. Trying to keep tabs on Rand and just doing it very unsuccessfully. Like, just her whole covert CIA moves, spy master. She needs to take some tips from Omerna, because she's not a great spy master.
Isn't Omerna also the bad one?
Omerna is the bad one. Who's the
Yes.
Bulwer is the good one.
Yes, Sebin Bulwer. He's the good one. Omerna is the decoy.
None of them are good or bad. They both terrible. Let's just get that right. It's just an effective terrible
jobs.
and an ineffective terrible.
Why is Bulwer terrible?
White cloak.
Not for
But
long.
he'll serve any master.
True. If
He's not dedicated to the cause. He's just doing a job because he does it
that
well and he
makes
enjoys it.
him the worst of the worst. He'll serve the White Cloaks. He'll serve the light, he'll serve the dark. Doesn't matter. Accounting for the highest price paid.
No, that's a leap. You won't serve the dark.
Really?
Unless their accounting is just in a mess and he has to get in there
Yes,
and fix it.
fix
Oh, he's
it
not
up.
the accountant, he's the spy.
No, that's Nori. That's the other dusty old.
I think Nori would work for the dark. Definitely.
Yeah.
Look at the
I
state
mean,
of these
accounting
books.
often is a dark art. How about you, Joe?
Run, Fardaris Mai.
And then she does.
You can just imagine him there like, maps, run, girl.
Poor Sulin, she's in
You
the favorite
son of
moments
a
this week.
She is copying it, yeah. And then comes back to say, I sent some guy Shane to fetch the rest of the maps.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
And you, Mo?
Sulin
as well?
No.
All right.
Mine is when Dylan tells Rand all about Tigraine, and Rand does the whole Finkel is iron on is Finkel. Like, he does the sums in his head and he puts it all together and understands like what everything, all the influence that Guitarra Morosa had on everything. To me, that was cool. Like Rand going, okay, yep, that makes sense. Okay, that's filling in a lot of
Everyone
blanks.
else around him is clueless. They just see a man staring off into a wall.
Rand's the only one that knows the full story.
Pretty much.
Because the Andorans only know the
Yes.
Tigraine story. The Aiel only know the Shail story. And Moraine also doesn't know the Shail story and has certainly not made the connection either.
Yeah, because I mean, he literally makes the connection right here in this
Yes,
chapter.
and he's the only one.
Crazy.
As an honorable mention, I had the Rand and Egwene interaction with him, his feet stretched out and chilling in his chair, even smiling at her, just humanizing him a bit. And then another honorable mention, Joe, was Run Faradaris Mai. Jacob wrote in with a favorite moment, and he said, Rand visiting the school and seeing the new inventions that are being made, a far cry from the Age of Legends with show wings and jokars, but a wheeled plow that makes 6 burrows at a time? That's impressive.
Hey,
Whoa.
plows take a lot of energy. It's a lot of power that needs to, I just want to know how they intended pulling that plow.
Hey, steam engine.
Well, steam engine's
There
still
you
a way off. That guy's stuff's still burning his fingertips. He's still got many, many days to go.
Well, only days, because in one of the books there's a scene where they've got the steam engine on a cart, on a wagon in a courtyard, and Rand watches them, and this thing splutters into life, and it starts moving all by itself. Like, they're getting there. But Jacob had an honorable mention as well, which is just meeting the Ogier, and also the dichotomy of toe that Avienda is dealing with between Rand and Elaine. So maybe, Jacob, if you can explain to us why Avienda thinks that killing Rand would solve one of her toe problems, explain that, please, for the love of God.
Please do.
To all of our other listeners not named Jacob, send in your thoughts, theories, corrections, and just fun messages to any of the social media links in the episode description. You can remember, still send us a voice message. I'm still champing at the bit to hear someone send in a voice message so we can splice it into the episode. But you can do that from the website, and also from there find a link to the store where you can buy a t-shirt. All the relevant links are in the episode description. Next time on Blood and Ashes. What is our show called again?
Blood and Axes.
Ooh, hello. Hang on. Is it too late to rebrand? That's not bad.
Bloody Axes. There you go.
Next time on Bloody Axes, we are going to cover chapters 21 through 26. That is 6 chapters.
You're reading on.
Not a lot of long ones in there. In fact, one of them I think is like 9 pages or 6 pages. It's pretty short. But chapter 21 is called To Shadow Logoth, as we've discussed before. And chapter 26 is Connecting Lines. So get reading so we can discuss.
Indeed.
Anything else you boys wanted to add?
Yeah, we're heading into the territory now where Rand gets put in a box.
It's almost
Rand.
box time.
Box time.
Oh, I mean, I remember that stretch being like torture to read. To like experiencing it was claustrophobic and frustrating. And oh man,
It's well written.
yeah.
And
What
one
about you,
last
Joe?
thing. Yeah. a duck walks into a
Oh,
shop
fuck, here we go.
to buy some lip gloss.
Uh-huh.
The shopkeeper says, cash or credit? And he goes, put it on my bill.
Okay, everybody.
Mic drop.
Time to call it a night. So
Aw.
until next time, sleep well and wake.
Cheers, everybody.
Oh, man.